policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guys up, giddy up. Welcome to Failure to Stop Podcast, the #1 show where police meet society and culture. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and, of course, Manscaped for the month of June. Thank you so much, Ghostbed and Manscaped. I am not here with Drew today. Drew is on a cruise. I saw a story of a man who jumped into the seas during a cruise, may or may not have been taken under by some type of a shark. I haven't confirmed if that's Drew or not Drew. Sounds like something he would do. Point being that Drew is not here with me today, but I have our fact checker extraordinaire who's become a staple producer behind the scenes. He's always got interesting stuff. He's a former law enforcement officer. We have Deadleg in the house. We do not refer to Deadleg by his real government name anymore. Reason being is because we don't think that he deserves to have a real government name, and he should only go by a nickname. I'm not saying that we're a cult or we're some sort of gang-affiliated organization that only goes by weird nicknames, but we only refer to him as Deadleg now that he is not on probation status anymore. He's part of the wolf pack. And if any of those things are evidence towards a cult or a gang, well, if the shoe fits, when in Rome. This is the Failure to Stop Podcast Breakdown. Sorry, go ahead, Deadleg. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I said I signed a consent form, so it's all good.
I hope so, because today you're going to need it, buddy. This is the Failure to Stop Breakdown. If you're tuning into the Failure to Stop podcast channel for the very first time, this is a podcast channel. It's one of the first in existence. That means we do multiple different styles of show all week long. We start Mondays off with police news with former cop, now comedian J. Darrell White. That's a very funny show, going over pedophiles of the week, dumb criminals of the week, cop mess ups, good arrest, heroes, all those things. Just something to keep you entertained on Monday. Then Tuesdays we have True Crime with Andrea Uplate, the beautiful and audacious Andrea Uplate, who's does true crime just a little different. Again, a little bit more fact checked, coming at it from a law enforcement background, where she consults with myself on that show or other detectives and law enforcement officers and really tries to get the real story out. She also has guests on that are related to the case. So that's always fun. Wednesdays we have Last Call, which is all the other news, so that you don't sound like an ignoramus first responder to your civilian friends. We give you something else to talk about other than dead babies and domestic violence. Thursday, Com Center. It's all the horrific dispatch stuff. I was actually a guest on Com Center for the very first time this week, and they covered a case of some officers down. They covered the 911 audio with the Com Center was having to do, getting life flight in the air, all the 911 calls from civilians that were, I didn't realize that. I mean, I always knew that civilians calling 911 was always a train wreck, but until you hear it in a situation where 2 officers have been killed, it really puts it more into perspective. One of the 911 callers goes in about a dog. He goes into talking about a dog before he gets to the fact that there's 2 dead officers on the ground. So he says he's driving down the road when he sees a dog, and then he explains the dog. Oh, and by the way, I have 2 officers down here. So it's just crazy how civilians act, not saying that they acted wrong or bad. I'm guessing in that particular case, it was a little bit of a shock. Seeing 3 dead people on the side of the road, 2 of them being officers, it would put you in some kind of shock. But it's a great show because it just puts Com Center stuff into perspective. Plus, if you're a first responder, firefighter, EMS worker, a cop, we think we understand dispatch, but until you listen to a show like Com Center, you really, really don't. And the fact that Com Center allows you to call in is really, really cool too. And I like that aspect because people call in, ask questions that you might not have thought about. So Com Center is a really great show. Comes out on Thursdays. And of course, Fridays, this is your breakdown where we go over a case, Big Bird to Cookie Monster style. Usually I have retired detective Drew Breezy, the beautiful Drew Breezy on with me, which he has well over 20 years of law enforcement. I think he's like, 29 years? Did he retire?
25 or 25, 26 years, something like that.
26 years of service. And then coming from myself, just shy of 8 years of service as a street cop. But we usually combined bring you over 30 years of police experience on these cases. But again, he is on a cruise. So it's just going to be me today, boys and girls. And this is the part 2. So part 1, we got a little bit into kind of setting the stage. If you don't know about Failure Stop Breakdown, this is your first time, we try to give you the totality of the case, and we try to give it to you objectively. So here's the evidence, here are the facts, without the emotion. The reason why Failure Stop Breakdown became a thing and it became the #1 show on this network was that we were on another network for a year when the show started. A network started the show. And it was to bridge the gap between citizens and police and kind of give you a perspective other than what mainstream media has to say. And I've always said that when mainstream media brings excitement into it or sensationalizing into it, emotions into it, they're often lying. And so we try to do that lack of emotion and try to give you really the totality of this of the case as a cop would see it. Now, sometimes you could say that we're biased or something like that because we were ex-cops. And sometimes that's true. We might be, but we try to be very transparent with our opinion versus facts. And we try to give you the facts as they appear, or the facts as they are in their totality, not just as they appear. And that can be confusing, especially in a case like this, because if we say, for example, that he had her DNA inside of his pants, that would make you think, wow, he is absolutely guilty. But if we say he also had 3 men DNA on the same spot of the pants, and this was all touch DNA, meaning that if we touch something and then we can transfer that onto our clothes, and we don't test for DNA anywhere else except for that one spot, but that one spot has several people's DNA on it, i.e. your zipper. If I touch somebody, if I shake somebody's hand and then I go and grab my zipper to pull it down to go TT or to change clothes, that DNA is going to be on my zipper. And so, the facts are the facts, but they have to be put into context. You have to know the totality of the facts before you can make a good informed decision. And that's what we try to do here on Failure Stop Breakdowns. So if you go back to the first part of the Holtzclaw case, I really wanted to talk to you about the hood culture because that is going to play a huge part in this case. You have to understand what goes on in the inner cities of America. You have to understand what happens in those 5 to 6 blocks that every major city has, where we're not saying that 100% of the hood is bad, but what we are saying is that there's always 5 or 6 streets in the hood that are 90% terrible, and it makes the rest of the hood, the rest of those 35 blocks, look really bad. Because of these 5 or 6 blocks that are controlled by gang members, prostitutes, the homeless that aren't trying to get help, the homeless that you're just trying to make that next heroin drop, make that next crack deal, and trying to stay alive like that. So if you really want to know the totality and the feeling, you've got to go back to the first episode and just kind of get that. I know we went a little bit off the rails, told some pretty dark stories on that episode. But we're going to try to keep it focused and on track today. Today's part 2 is going to be all about the interview, which, man, I wish I had Drew here because he was, a detective. But I've interviewed a lot of people too. And I don't think you have to be a detective to understand this interview process. Now, for those of you who don't know, Daniel Holtzclaw was accused of extreme sexual assaults allegations, a lot of them, and he was found guilty very fast, and he was sentenced to over 260 years in prison for his accounts. However, the evidence may not add up that he committed any of these crimes, and in fact, I will say that there's more evidence than not that shows he did none of these crimes, and that's hard for the human brain. That it's even hard for me to say on this show because what was there, 21 allegations in this case?
21 accusers, and then by the time it got down to trial, what was actually presented to the jury, what was out in the media was this, but was actually presented to the jury and you could actually use was actually about this, because they had to start eliminating people before trial because of their credibility, or they just lied. They recanted their statements and said, hey, I lied because I wanted her to feel like she wasn't alone.
Which is an exact quote from one of these accusers.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where the media really, really convicted this guy before any evidence, before anything got a chance to come out. And in that, like we were researching beforehand, in that same time frame, you've got the Ferguson stuff going on. You've got the protest, the riots that are going on in Baltimore because was it Freddie Gray that was in the back of the you've got all of this stuff. So from the department, They want to just get this over with. They want to get this, go to the courts, get the conviction, get it over with, get it out of the news so they can move on, so they don't have to worry about riots in Oklahoma. So there's a lot that the climate of everything that goes into it, the context, the timing. I mean, I've watched a lot of tape for this show, and I have so many more questions than I do answers. Why, like the way that the investigation goes, the questioning, how when you're questioning someone, when you're trying to, there's a series of questions that you build a rapport. You're trying to, when you're interviewing with someone, I'll ask someone straight up stuff that I know that's a lie. I'll confront them with information that I know that's a lie, that they're going to confront me back with. And it'll be something simple like an address or their birth date or their relative's name, something very, very simple and benign. But this starts to build a rapport with me that over the course of this interview, I'm getting nonverbal cues from this individual. So once we get into an hour in and I start talking about, hey, was your PP out? Did you see her boobies? Did your PP out in the back of the car? Like, these are things that are said in this interview, not to get, too far ahead of things, but that way that when you get to that point, you can start to you look at him and, hey, when I said that his next door neighbor's name was Sheila and it's really Greg, he had the same reaction when I brought up this. So
right. Like, as in, like, if I say, sir, correct me if I'm wrong, but your birthday is 7/1983. No, my birthday is 7/12/03. So we had like a no. We had like a big car. Yeah. Now, if you're going to catch her on a line, I say, sir, you're now it says here that on June 3rd, you got married. Yeah, I got married on June 3rd. Like, there was no, we get verbal cues. We're going to go into a lot of the verbal cues here in a minute. And honestly, we're going to go, this is the part 2. So this is all about the interview. This is all about the detective's interview. This is the beginning. This is before the media got a hold of this. And I think it's really important to pay attention to this interview. And I'm going to play it in detail because when we wrap this up with part 3 next week, part 3, where we're going to put everything that we kind of talked about on part 1, this one, part 2, and we're going to put it together, and it's going to really be shocking. And I know that right now this is like confusing. It's almost like kind of Game of Thrones-ish in the first couple of seasons. You're like, where's this going to go? We're going to take you there, I promise. But I'm going to play a lot of the interview today because one, I think a lot of civilians don't understand how an interview process works, but also all the things I talked about in the first episode about police culture as well, where we have officer by the books and then we have street cops and how they differ and how they kind of conflict and they don't really like each other. And you're going to notice all of those things that I talked about in the first episode, you're going to really see in this episode where we have officer by the books, really not appreciating the police tactics of a street cop, and then using those tactics to really, to find somebody guilty before trying to find them innocent at all. And I would argue that, we'll get into this, but I'd like to know what your opinion is. I'll let you think about it real quick. But I'd like to think that if a cop is interviewing me, that they would go way out of their way to make sure that I'm guilty, to make sure that I'm innocent before they go out of their way to try to make me be guilty. Meaning that even if it's a cop I hate and he's been accused of stealing, I want to give that cop the benefit of the doubt. And I want to look for every bit of evidence that shows that he's innocent before I try to find all the evidence that he's guilty. And I hate bad cops, everything like that. But I also know that in the police department realm, I've been accused of stealing a knife. I've never stolen anything in my life. And of course that was unfounded. And there video evidence, luckily, that showed I was unfounded. We'll get into that later. So you got to understand that as police officers, people lie on you almost every single day because the people that you're arresting aren't good humans. Typically, typically the people you arrest are not good human beings. Sometimes they're good human beings that just had a bad day, but a lot of times you're going after career criminals or people who've made a habit or a lifestyle of lying. This show today is going to be all about the interview. So if you're excited about interviews, hold on, buckle up, because we've got a great interview. But before I get started, we do have a paid Patreon that has behind the scenes stuff. We are working right now with trying to get Holtzclaw's sister on. We're going to try to put her on the Patreon show. I know that there's a lot of new Patreon episodes out, so if you want to support the show, you can go to Patreon. Also, if you want to support the show, you can hit that like and subscribe button on the YouTubes. Even though 99% of our audience comes from audio listens, we do love it when you give a like and subscribe on our YouTube, because we like to be seen, not just heard. And if you're just listening on audio, you can leave us a 5-star rating and review, if you would, on Apple iTunes, or just any kind of review. If you like the show, if you don't like the show, we want to hear from you. That's important to us. But we couldn't do this show without our sponsors, ghostbed.com and Manscaped. And so support those who support law enforcement and support veterans. And those are companies just like Ghostbed, who are making beds in the good old USA. And we've got Manscaped. Who doesn't want to be Manscaped? I'm going to do some ad reads a little bit later, but I want to jump into today's case. And a special shout out to everybody in the live chats right now. There's lots of comments going on already this morning, so I'm not going to jump into it and waste time for our audio listeners. But Will Carey, Lumber Chef, Tactical Dude, Drew Breezy from the boat. Look at that. Looks like Michael August. Michael August, thank you for being in here. Carly and all the rest. I'm not going to keep scrolling up, or I'll do this all day because I don't want to leave anybody out. Let's go ahead and jump into today's interview. This all starts with a traffic stop. After Daniel Holtzclaw has been off of duty, Daniel Holtzclaw is going to get off duty. He's going to shut his computer and laptop, which, listen, street cops do that. They want to put on those blinders and they want to go home. They don't want to take the chance of getting another call. But also at the same time, I want to say, because of this interview, and it's going to seem weird to the detectives, that why did you pull this car over? Or why did you do that? And they don't give a lot of they don't clarify the mindset of a street cop in this episode, or in these interviews, or to the jury in the trial. Being a street cop, working in the inner city. By the way, Oklahoma, we decided, was what, number 5 most dangerous city to live in?
Yeah, it's up there.
It was either 4 or 5. It was like right behind, it was like Chicago was up there, and it's right up there with Chicago as being gnarly. So, this particular district where he works is the gnarliest of the gnarly in the country. So this guy has a very high tempo, a very high pace going into work. And in these kind of scenarios, he was on a gang unit. But what you don't know, and I write about in my book a lot, is that there's a lot of pressure to produce. And when you don't produce, it's not a demotion, but you could get moved. You're trying to earn other spots in the district. When you start out as a rookie, oftentimes you start out where all the car accidents happen, because nobody wants to sit and deal with car accidents all day. And so all you can do when you're a rookie is work your butt off between car accidents so that you can get to the other part of the district to where maybe you can get some drug bust, or maybe you have an apartment complex in your beat that's just full of domestics. And so 25 calls a day, 16 of those are going to be some kind of random domestic violence situations at the local apartment complex. And it's just going to piss you off because you're going to have a lot of reports to do when you have domestics. So there is a lot of competition in these kind of districts. There's a lot of politicking that goes on to get out. And so when you have a real go-getter like Daniel Holtzclaw, and if you look at his profile and his history as an officer, he does have 19 uses of force in a very short couple of year span, 2 or 3 year span. And they will call this use of force complaints. Just because you have a use of force report doesn't mean you have a use of force complaint. And, 9 times out of 10, when you do have a use of force, there's often sometimes a complaint that's going to go with that. Because again, the people that you're arresting, especially if you have to use force on them, aren't always the best of the best people in the world. So, it's a very active district where he's working. He's a very proactive police officer. And I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes when I work, I'm the same type of officer. I'd like to see, as much as I've researched Daniel Holtzclaw, I see very many similarities between the two of us, to the point where it's definitely a profile. Except, obviously, I don't think he's a raper either. And I'm definitely not a raper either. So when he sees a car that's doing the wrong thing and he hasn't had a great night, meaning that you spent all night, it's like if you're hunting deer and you're sitting in your tree stand all night and you don't see a single deer and you're walking back into your car, but you see one more clue And you're like, oh, I was going to give it 5 more minutes, see if I can get that deer. You want to go home with something. And so if you don't have anything by the end of the night and you're patrolling at home and you finally find that one car in front of you that's fucking up pretty bad, you're like, oh, maybe I got something here. Let me try one more time. I really do, from the bottom of my heart, think this was with that case with Daniel Holtzclaw. I think he sees this car. He sees that it has fully tinted windows. He's got the time of day. He's got the side of town. You know, he might not be looking for a DUI, but he's definitely looking for drugs and guns. And the rule of thumb there is the more cars you pull over, the better chance you have of finding drugs and guns if you're a drugs and guns kind of cop. And so a lot of times we call it the lemon law. You'll pull them over for suspected DUI, and you might not even go with the DUI. You're just going in there to sniff. Is there, you know, because you're looking for the kilo of cocaine. You're looking for the big weight. You do a quick search. You try to find stuff. You try to find the drug mule, whatever, and you don't find it. You just cut them loose. You throw their keys in their woods if they're drunk. Back in the day, you used to do that. Can't do that so much anymore. And in this case, I think that's exactly what he was doing. I think he saw a one last chance, an opportunity to find a good bus for the night, pulled it over, finds out that it's a lemon, and he cuts this female go. And 3 hours later, he's going to find himself sitting in a detective's chair. And the accusation is going to be that he raped this young lady on a traffic stop on a main road right across the street from a building that had off-duty officers. So if I'm a detective and I get this accusation, those are the first things I'm going to notice. So you're saying that my officer raped you on a main road across the street from where there's off-duty officers working. Okay. And I understand that he didn't have his computer on and things like that. But my first thought is going to be probably not likely. It's probably not likely that a cop is going to do something like that, but maybe he's going to do something like that. So here we go with the interview. I'm going to play the first part of this. There's going to be a lot of interview heavy, and we're going to go ahead and dissect most of this interview. I have fast forwarded to the 11-minute and 17 mark. By the way, this entire interview can be found on YouTube. Just type in former Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw interview complete. Okay. And you can watch this entire interview with no fast forwarding. There's no cherry picking. You can just watch the whole thing in its totality. Obviously, I have to cherry pick for this breakdown, but I'm not cherry picking it in the sense that I want you to think that this guy's innocent. I don't want to cherry pick it to that. Honestly, I want you all to go watch the entire hour-long investigation, the interview on this. I think it's important for you to do so. But I'm not cherry picking, but I'm just putting some key points in there to kind of give you the perspective of what I see, of why I think, and I'll go ahead and say straight up, I think Daniel Holtzclaw is innocent. And so I am biased in the way that I am going to present you information to prove my thoughts on why he's innocent. But I'm also going to try to be as objective as I can by giving you the totality of circumstances. So I'll just play it. You can decide for yourself. I'm not trying to influence you. I'm just showing you why I, Eric Tanzi, think that this man might be innocent. Okay. And if there's reasons why you think he's guilty, there's plenty of podcasts out there that show this. However, they all have to use emotions, and they all have to use lies, and they all have to use truths that are not the totality of the truth. They have to use things that have been proven to be different than what the truth actually is. And again, I kind of touched on that earlier. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. So with that being known in your brain, if you want to be an objective citizen or police officer, please know that I'm trying to do this for all of you, not just for myself, not for Daniel Holtzclaw. I don't know this man. I've never known this man. I have no reason to stick up for him or against him. But I think I think this is going to be a huge lesson for us going forward. We have to learn these kinds of lessons to be better cops and detectives. And think about how many true crime podcasts are out there right now that the cops look like imbeciles, that the detectives look like imbeciles, that they don't do their jobs. And these true crime podcasters love to go through and find the same things that I'm finding right now, and then make these detectives look like dumbasses. But in this particular case, those same podcasters, they take no time, even though all the facts are out now, they take no time to hold these detectives accountable for the mistakes that they have made. And, you know, the Anad Saeed case, that's the big true crime, one of the big first true crime detectives. I mean, that Anad Saeed, I believe They've reopened that trial. There's some big news in there. You'd have to get up with Andrea, our true crime expert, to go into all that. I'm just a mere street cop. But these are important things to learn if we're going to do true crime podcast, and for true crime podcasters that you can do a lot of harm if you don't know what you're talking about. So here we go. Go ahead.
Just to add context to this before, not to delay it too much. Do you remember how long before the first allegation until the interview? Because I think it was the next morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. That they started this interview.
This is 3 hours, right? This is 3 hours after the allegation.
So from a cop's standpoint, all right. So if you're a detective and you're going to go, this is to set the context of why I have such a problem with it, why Drew has such a problem with it, why Eric has such a problem with it. From a context of now your suspect in this crime is a cop. So this is a cop. This is someone who's gone through the exact same training that you have. They just probably have less experience than you have. So from that detective's point, you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. They've gone into this 3 hours into this. And before you get to this point, what would you do? Like if I was in a detective's position, I would want to start pulling as much information and have as much evidence for sure before I went into this interview, so I could start pulling bullshit on whatever this guy starts to give me. But these guys go into it 3 hours after they've just taken a statement and they've gone into this interview.
I understand the 3 hours part, because if you get a phone call that somebody has been raped as a police officer, you're going to go right to the house of the victim, of the suspect, and you're going to detain that suspect, and you're going to start asking questions. You have DNA that you have to preserve. You don't want that guy to, get rid of a lot of evidence, be able to corroborate a story. I think speed is your friend in this case. So I don't have a problem with them going into the interview 3 hours into it. I think that they could have looked. I think there was and we're going to show you this here in 2 seconds. There's lots of opportunities where they could have gathered evidence, but they chose not to, which almost makes me think that they think this is bullshit. Because if this wasn't a cop and this was a suspect and he gave me an opportunity to gather evidence, I would gather it right then and there. I.e., hey man, can I check your pants? Yeah. Okay. Well, then give me your pants right now. Like there would be, and then they don't seem to really be that. They don't work. They don't act as fast on that information as I think that you would if you just had if this was not, if this wasn't law enforcement related. So let me go ahead and play this. This is 11 minutes in. The first 11 minutes is 2 or 3 minutes of him just kind of sitting there. He's going to come into the room. She's going to let him know that they're investigating something. They want to know what's going, if he knows what he's being investigated for. He does not know. He says I'm embarrassed to be here, frankly. And she says, why are you embarrassed to be here? And he says, well, anytime you come here, people are going to talk. You're sex crimes detective. So obviously I'm being accused of something, but that's embarrassing. But he really doesn't have a clue outside of that, or doesn't allude to having a clue. His mannerisms, as we go through some of the things I want you to notice, when somebody is lying, this is something that every police officer is taught across the board to catch somebody in a lie. Now, not detectives, just police officers. So again, NEC student, it's pretty evident. Anybody that's being vague, we're offering you very little information, is often hiding something or being little. Like, what are you doing here today, sir? I don't know. I'm
just hanging out with my friends.
Just hanging out with my friends. Okay. Just being very vague, not wanting to answer your questions. Oh, okay. I know, but it's like 2 a.m. and there's posted no trespassing signs. You're wearing all black and you have black gloves. It's not even cold outside. Why are you here? And then, they say, just hanging out, being very vague. Those are some clues that somebody might be lying. Repeating your questions before answering him. Hey man, how old are you? How old am I? 15. Like, no, bitch, you're like 18. And you're going to jail because you're not 15. So speaking in sentence fragments, like breaking up their sentence, talking, I don't know, doing a lot of that is a sign of maybe not telling the truth. Failing to provide specific details with a story, like not being able to get very details, like, oh, I came to her house, but I don't remember what time. Do you remember what color the house was? No, not really. Do you remember any identifying features of the house? No, not really. Just being, very having no specific detail, because the more detail you give, the more lies you've got to tell to keep up with those. And then of course that's going to lead into fragmented sentences, because you're trying to remember what you told, blah, blah, blah. And then grooming behaviors like playing with yourself, biting your nails, curling your hair, adjusting your uniform, doing all these things. So those are kind of the 5 main things that we're going to look for anytime a street cop is interviewing anybody, whether that be a DUI or anything. And I want you, when you're watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you take the time out of your police life, your first responder life, to go watch, not this on interview, on YouTube, but go watch the interview itself on YouTube. Look for these things. Is he being vague? Is he offering very few details? Is he repeating questions before he answers them? Is he speaking in fragmented sentences? Is he failing to provide specific details? Is he showing grooming behaviors? Is he trying to get himself into a rhythm? Even if he's a trained liar, a lot of people will take a break. They'll take a second before they answer that question. They'll think about it before they answer the question. Or, is he doing any of those things? Is he giving you any indicator that he's lying? In this entire interview, there's only one time, and I've watched this interview 5 or 6 times, there's only one moment in this entire interview that I catch him in in a lie that I would say 95% chance he's lying on that particular thing, but we'll never know because it's going to be his word versus everybody else's word. But only one moment do I catch him lying, and I'll tell you why I think he was lying and what his motives were for lying. So go, as I play this clip, just think about those things in the back of your brain. I'm going to go ahead and present this. Let's see here. And we're going to go to here, and you'll be able to hear this for you audio listeners as well. So don't be afraid. Whoopsies. That's not right.
We also have Drew calling in from the seas.
He's calling in?
We have him. You want me to bring Drew in?
Oh, I mean, if he wants to come in, yeah, of course.
The easy breezy, beautiful Drew Breezy.
Drew High Seasy is what I'm being called.
Drew High Seasy.
Drew High Seasy. How are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Do you want to weigh in to anything I've said?
I'm doing great. Don't just keep going. I don't want to interrupt the flow.
Oh, okay. All right.
When he came,
no, you're doing fantastic. It is body language is read in clusters. Just know that it's not just one thing. Looking to the left or twisting your hair. And I don't know if you covered that part. I was getting set up, but you got to read the totality. Anyway, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, so he's exactly right. So being the totality is just because you play with your hair one time doesn't mean you're necessarily lying. Just because you look to the left one time doesn't mean you're lying. If you keep doing it, if you keep up these behaviors, that's a tall tale sign. Oftentimes when somebody's lying, though, they're going to have all of these things. All of the things, they're going to speak in fragmented sentences. All that's going to come to light. And it's very easy to tell when somebody's lying, especially when you've been a law enforcement officer more than 2 years. I mean, more than 5 minutes, you can tell people are lying very quickly, the way that they pause or they stop or they stutter. Let's see if this is correct here. Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you.
Okay. And put her in the back of your car?
Yes.
Okay. Any problems there?
No, she was cooperative. Didn't give me any problems or whatnot.
Okay. And then you searched, did you run her through Unit 800?
I didn't.
You didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So did you run her on your MDT?
No, I didn't. All my stuff as far as that, because I didn't call it in and say it was a traffic stop. My computer was off and everything as well.
Did you shut it off?
I just shut it off.
Work?
Yeah, on the way on 50th. I turned it off right before the traffic stop, basically.
Okay. And where did you pick her up?
Okay, why is that important? Why did I choose that clip to show it to you? The reason why I've chosen this particular clip is because that's the reason he should lie. If he doesn't know what's going on, even if he does know what's going on, those are huge policy violations and something that you would want to lie about. You would say that my computer's fucked up, or my computer was open, but it crashed. There's 1,000 excuses if you're coming into this thing having no idea what's going on, because he doesn't know that there's been an alleged rape yet. He doesn't know what he's been called in there to. He has no idea that it's this traffic stop or another traffic stop. He doesn't know. He's just sitting in front of here 3 hours after an alleged rape. And I don't, if he assumes, okay, if he did do it and he assumed that he raped somebody, I don't think he would be so casual. I think he would be very scared and very nervous unless he's just an absolute sociopath, which could be too. But I think there would be more evidence leading up to this that he was a sociopath or that he had those tendencies. But in this case, he's presented with an opportunity to lie. He doesn't lie at all. He's very frank. He knows he's broken policy. He knows it's the wrong thing to do. And he doesn't skip 1 second or think about it for a second to tell the truth. I'm going to keep going so you can keep hearing the totality of this.
50th and what about?
50th and Lincoln just to the west.
But no, where'd you see her swerve, kind of?
I'd say a block just to the east of Lincoln and 50th.
Okay. She pull over right away.
She was in the right lane and the outside lane when I saw her swerve. And so she saw a police car right there. And so she kind of did what everyone does, slow down. Kind of, okay, is he going to pull me over or not? And then I lit her up about 50th and Lincoln, past the intersection to the west.
Okay. When you put her in your car, did you pat search her?
When I came around, I was like, lift up your shirt. Is there anything on you? Anything as far as your waistband or anything like that? She said no. And then I put her in the vehicle and went from there.
Did your hands go on her at all?
I backhanded her on as far as the side.
Where on her body? Tell me. You backhanded
her waist, and the back portion. I didn't touch her butt or anything, but the back portion of the waist. And then she lifted it up like right here. And there's nothing.
Did she lift it up like this?
No.
Okay. So she never went, ooh, nothing, exposed her breasts or anything like that.
She asked me if I was like, no, it's okay.
She asked you
if you want to search me. I'm like, no, it's okay.
So she never put her hands on the car and you.
No.
Okay. Where was she positioned or standing when you did the back of your hand on her?
Probably the front right fender of my patrol vehicle.
But was she facing you or was she turned?
No, she was facing away from me.
And you just kind of did it like this?
Yeah, back there, yes.
Okay. Did your hand go on her butt or
anything?
anything?
No, that's what I was saying. It was the hip, the side, not the butt section.
What about right here?
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't.
They can tuck a gun
That's
right here.
why I asked to lift it up.
Oh, so she just kind of showed you her belly?
Right.
Okay. Then you talked to her for a little bit.
Right.
After you searched her, you put her in the back of the car.
Right.
Then we used to always kind of keep the door open and talk when they're not combative or anything. Did you talk to her and get information then while she was in the back of your car?
Right. I talked to her for a little bit just as far as what's inside the vehicle. Can I have consent to search your vehicle? Is there anything in that Kool-Aid? She said no. Just talking to her. What's the deal? Why are you driving late at 2:00 at night? Why did you swerve? So she's going to Ann Arbor over the northwest side to visit her daughter, I believe. So
then you went up and searched her car?
After she gave me consent to search her car.
How long you think?
I did a quick search, to be honest with you. I looked under the seat, boom, sniffed the juice, whatever she's had, and I didn't smell alcohol on it. Went through her purse, like she said, there's pills in it, looked at it real quick to see if their name was there. And that was basically it.
Okay. Then when you went back to her, what happened?
When I went back to her, I was like, okay, I didn't smell any alcohol on your car and your juice thing. And I'm like, what's the deal? Are you really drunk or not? And she's like, no, I'm just trying to go back home. And at that time, I was like, okay, but I'll go ahead and follow you. I said, I'm not going to take you to jail. I'm tired. I'm not going to take you to jail. I'm going to follow you. And let's go back to 44. And you head westbound on 44. So that's what we did.
Did you follow her?
Actually, when I went behind her and we got in the car, she took forever and I started getting annoyed. So I just U-turned it and I went ahead and I saw her in the back view of my rearview mirror. But she was following a 44, but then I took off going northbound on Broadway Extension while she took 44 to go west.
So you were able to see her do that?
Yes.
And go. And then did you lose her when you got on Broadway?
When I went to northbound on Broadway, and she went 44 west.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like this is the lady. I mean, this is the deal where she's the complaining party.
Okay.
Okay. And she's making some sexual allegations, obviously, because sex crimes is working.
Right. What did she say?
Well, was there anything, an accidental touch, anything?
If she thought it when I passed searched her, but it was nothing as far as I felt like I would do anything as far as sexual or anything like that. For my safety, I just checked to see if the weapons or anything.
And Make
And
it- you
to
have
make
every
clear,
right
I
to do
didn't
that.
touch her butt, but the waist side and whatnot. If you would like me to do, just for me to show you.
No, and I'm fine with it, and you have every right to do that. She's saying that you made her lift up her shirt.
Now, guys, the allegation here is that he orally raped her and forced her to give a BJ. This guy is not trying to cover any tracks leading up to that. I think if he was going to lie, if he knows that he did do this, he would start off by saying like, "Oh, I put her in the back of my car," and I don't know. He would be going down a wholly different path. I think his main focus of all of this is his policy violations, and that's why he's spending so much time talking about his own search of her car and the Pat search. Because that's what's more important to him. That's what he thinks he's in trouble for, is maybe this Pat search. So it doesn't really, from the interview, I don't see him this entire interview. He does not ever, he doesn't ever stray away from giving as much detail as he possibly can. Now, remember, he's getting off of a night shift and he's been woken up 3 hours later, put on his entire uniform, driving all the way back to a station. So he's absolutely exhausted and tired, which is not the greatest time to be coming up with a story. He also now knows, as a police officer who's gone through an academy, and if Drew's still around or Deadleg's still around, you guys can attest to this. You've gone to the academy. He's got a criminal justice degree. His father was a cop. What is the first thing as police officers that we're told to do? And I became a police officer before this ever happened. So I know this. I learned this in the academy, and I think I was a cop before this man was a cop. So I know if I learned it in the academy, he learned it in the academy. But when you're alleged to have done something criminal, what do you do as a cop?
Union rep, and I want my attorney.
Tell the truth. Yeah,
and lawyer up, correct?
Well, first of all, tell the truth. 1,000%. Because listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I taught interviews and interrogations for 10 straight years to detectives, deputies, supervisors. It was a 40-hour, a week-long course. And I will be the first to tell you, if you're stopped by the police or you're charged with a serious crime, don't talk. It's your right. You have a right to remain silent. You don't need to talk, because the moment you do, stuff like this happens, and they can twist everything that you say. Unfortunately, here they're saying or they're twisting his to the nth degree, because he feels compelled to talk because he thinks that he's in trouble because of a policy violation. He's even talking about, no, she's like, well, did you run her in your computer? No, I'd already shut it down. He's not nervous about any of that. He's nervous about saying he shut his computer down and he hadn't been home yet, but he's not nervous about anything else. He's not nervous about saying, no, I didn't run her. No, I shut my computer down. This is where I picked her up and saw her swerving. He is completely at ease with answering those questions. He's nervous that he's violating a policy by answering the questions. He's gotten this rape allegation is so far out in left field in his mind, and the first thing out of his mouth is, why? What'd she say? I mean, like, let me try to clear this up. He talks about how he patted her down with the back of his hand. She tries to pigeonhole him into saying, well, you didn't search her in the front area, and he's like, no, that's why I made her lift her shirt. It all makes sense, and he's not nervous about any of it. So yes, Eric, the answer to your question is, if you're stopped, you lawyer up. I mean, that's your right. You don't need to. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. In fact, they read him his Miranda rights.
Now,
he's not intimidated by any sexual assault investigation whatsoever.
Right. He's like, yeah, for me, the 2 times that I was charged criminally, I did not lawyer up. I didn't lawyer up. Even though I knew in the back of my brain, I'm supposed to lawyer up, but being like the truth will set me free type guy, I was a very idealistic cop where I thought the justice system was on my side. Now that I'm not a cop and I do this for a living, doing breakdowns on the interwebs, which still blows my mind that this is what I do for a living. Now I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people out there that are getting hemmed up, even though that they're telling the truth. I mean, the Mastretta case, comes to mind, very quickly, where he did all the right things and still found himself going through years of trial in court, only to be found not guilty, of course. But, the guy does everything 100% correctly and still gets the shaft for it. So, but in this case, I know that I have a tendency to be like, no, the truth will set me free, baby. Let me just sing to you. And so this guy I feel is doing the same way. He's like, I'm not lawyering up. Like, this is all bullshit. Like, this is fucking crazy. Let me go home and go back to sleep. Let me get on with my life. I've done nothing wrong my whole life, my whole career. And despite what the media tells you, despite what these other podcasts say, I just listened to a podcast the other day that calls this guy a roid freak. And I'm going to clear up all the roid stuff for you. So like, you can't call somebody a roid freak and paint them as a monster if it's just not simply true. I don't understand why true crime podcasts do this. And the only reason they do it is because it's a cop. If you do it and it's a regular victim, you're victim shaming, or you're suspect shaming. Like, they always try to take the sides. But now that it's a cop, all of a sudden, let's throw the book at him and call him a piece of shit and everything. But you can't say things that aren't true. You can't call somebody a roid freak and the entire episode and blame everything on his roid rage when the guy's never had a history of roid raging ever. He has zero history of domestic violence. There's not one ex-girlfriend that they could find that they come forward that said nothing but nice things about him. How many ex-girlfriends do you have that would say nothing but nice things about you?
All of them, Eric.
Well, and in this case, even this guy's ex-girlfriends are like, no, he has no sexual deviancies. He doesn't have, so the whole roid freak thing, just simply not true in this case. But I'm gonna keep playing these tapes for you. I'm gonna go ahead.
Let me just clarify what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
If you're charged with a very serious crime and you're a cop, you better know to shut your mouth and let your attorney do your talking for you. If you think that you violated a few policy violations, just like you said, cops are, I am telling you, anybody that's worked in internal affairs or anybody that's had to interview another cop will tell you, we are the worst in the sense that we'll tell you more than you need to know. In fact, there are interviews where I've been like, I don't need to know. I don't want to know that part. Just let's stick with this part of the story. So when it comes to a serious criminal allegation, stop. Hold on. I definitely need a lawyer here. You're right. You're dead on right. He's not thinking crime, criminal allegation. He's thinking policy violations. Let me just tell you what happened and let me get it off my chest. And then I can move on, take a nap, come back to work, throw more bad people in jail, whatever.
Yeah, for a very quick example, I was driving on a patrol and a man was crossing the street and he had wanted to cross the street, but I was already coming. I had the right of way and I stopped and we kind of stared at each other and I was like, no, go ahead, man. You go ahead. Like, you didn't see me coming, but I saw you and I stopped. I'm already stopped. Let's go ahead and cross the street. So I'm just giving him the very friendly, come on by, baby. Come on through. So he comes through. He stops at the hood of my car, stares at me, jumps onto the hood of my car and then rolls off. And I'm like, oh, it's one of those. So I hit the record button on my in-car camera, which goes back 2 minutes. So anytime that you hit the record button on your in-car camera, it plays from 2 minutes prior to when you hit the record button, which was great for me, right? So this guy gets up and I say, hey, man, what's going on? And he gets up and he was like, you just hit me with your car. And I was like, dude, I have a car camera. You see that little red light right there? Like, it's recording the whole thing. And he's like, oh. And he's got something in his fist. And he's packing his thumb down into his arm, which is making a plastic bat. If you ball up your fist and you tuck your thumb into your knuckles and try to like push a baggie down to hide it, he was doing that. But like a burrito from Chipotle, when you eat from the front, it squirts out the back of the burrito. So as he's packing this thing down into his fist, it's coming out the bottom of his hand. I can see the plastic bag. So now I'm like, dude, okay, so what's in your hand now? Like, what is this going on? And he takes it and he throws it right in front of me, right in front of the camera, throws it. I tell him, get on the, have a seat. Well, actually, first I say, get up against the car, man. I pat him down to make sure he's got nothing else on him that he's going to throw away. I tell him to have a seat. I'm by myself. I haven't gotten out on any radio. Nobody knows what I'm doing. And I sit him down. I walk the 5 or 6 paces out. I grab this little tiny freaking bag of oregano, I think I called it, because I didn't want to get involved in any kind of marijuana, 1 gram of marijuana case. And so I sit down. I was like, dude, what is your problem? Like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, blah. And he's, basically, he thought he could maybe get a quick lawsuit for me hitting him with his car. And I end up citing him for the marijuana and releasing him, whatever. Well, months go by and I get pulled into IA months later. I don't even remember this case. And they're asking me if I had a run-in with so-and-so on such and such street. No, I don't have any recollection of that. I mean, I run into people all the time. They're like, does this man look familiar to you? No, doesn't look familiar to me at all. Okay, well, he's alleging that you stole something from him. And I'm like, okay, what did I steal? And they're like, did you steal a pocket knife? I was like, absolutely not. I didn't steal a pocket knife. I've never stolen anything in my life. And there's nothing that this homeless druggie has on him that I could ever want to sacrifice my career. Like, you're crazy. And they're like, ask me a bunch of other questions. And they're like, and I just said no. And they're like, okay, great. Well, we're going to show you this videotape. And they show me the whole videotape. And it's like nothing. It's all gravy. And they say, because we've looked at this tape and we've heard your statement, this is completely unfounded. And you're saying you don't have a knife. So see you later. You're good to go. I knew that once I said that I had stolen something, it's a criminal matter and I should probably lawyer up, but I knew it was bullshit. And the fact that there was all the video surveillance, that it set me free. So in my brain, telling the truth always works. But what if that video got corrupted? What if that video didn't make it out of evidence? What if I didn't save it properly? What if something happened? Now I look like a huge liar and I could be hemmed up. During this interview, the way an interview police interrogation works, they're going to ask you lots of questions. Again, like Deadleg said, to try to feel you out, see where you're lying, where you're not lying. And they're going to set up a timeline with you. And they're going to ask you, when did you do this? And then you did this next. And then you did this next. And then this happened. And then this happened. And they're writing all that down. There's somebody behind the screen here, behind the door, behind this thing, watching all this on video, taking extensive notes on all this. And then they're going to ask them to recap. And this is the best part to catch somebody in a lie, because it's always during the recap that they fuck up. Always. Even if they've been trained in doing this, if you're lying, it makes going to a timeline very difficult. But this is his timeline. This is his recap. And let's see if you guys catch anything nefarious in his recap. Let's see here.
While Eric's looking for it real quick, look at the mannerisms that Eric did just a few seconds ago when he was telling that story. And then watch the mannerisms of Daniel telling his story. It's the same mannerisms. You're looking for things that like you want to close off with the body, like the body will close off. There's nonverbal cues that what they're saying isn't exactly 100% truthful. And his body is open. He's talking with his hands. He wants to make sure he's demonstrating exactly what I'm doing. This is what, do you want me to show you? That's not someone who's trying to divulge, like to keep information. The other side of like Eric was saying, what people will, well, I don't know. I was over there with my friend. Like they'll be very vague. On the flip side of it, sometimes if they know that they're in trouble for something, they'll add a bunch of information to a specific area to try to get you not to look at the other area. But he's not just divulging, he's answering their questions. He's like, hey, this is what it is. This is what it is. And then when they try to trip him up, he's like, no, let me explain to that. Especially like when she was like trying to trip him up about like looking for guns or something in the front waistband. He's like, no, I didn't touch her there. He's like, well, you just said that you did. He's like, no, I didn't have to because I had her lift up her shirt and I could see. I didn't need to touch it. I could visually see. So there's mannerisms in the way that his
right, like if he was lying,
time.
if he really did search her, and he says like I had her look on the thing, and she says, well, did you search her? And he's like, yeah, I searched her. And then they would be like, okay, but you said you didn't search her. And he's like, well, I didn't search her. No, he didn't do that. He was like, no, I didn't search her. I never said I searched her. So he's pretty Johnny on the spot. So it's not like really indicative of somebody again who's only had 3 hours to corroborate a story. He doesn't really have, he's pretty Johnny on the spot with all of his answers. Let's keep going. This is kind of going to be his recap, if you will, of the events.
And then she says there's some juice in there. I was like, is there alcohol in the juice? She says no. So I was like, anything else inside the car? She's like, oh, you might just find some pills and whatnot. So I proceeded to ask, can I have consent to search the car? She says yes. Go to the car, I did a quick search, nothing out, didn't look up any carpets or anything like that. A quick search, looked under the seat, looked through her purse, saw the pills, smelled the juice. I didn't smell any alcohol in the juice. But then when I looked at the pills, it kind of quick glance to make sure it was her name, whatnot. Okay, we're good. Went back over there. Okay. And what's the deal with this? Blah, 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 whatnot. And she's like, I'm just trying to go see my daughter. And then I was like, okay. I don't want to go. I don't want to take you to jail. I'm tired. I want to go home. And then she's like, okay. So basically went from there, and I said, I'll follow you around. We got in a car. She took forever, so I pulled out, did a U-turn in front of her. She followed me where I could see her in the rearview mirror. We went over, and I went northbound on Broadway Extension. She went 44 and west. And that was it.
Why'd you log off?
I always log off.
Aren't you supposed to stay logged on until you get home?
I always log off.
Do you keep your police radio on when you go home?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
think
you're
I
listening.
have my radio on, yes.
Do sometimes you turn them off?
Yeah, I do.
That's not good officer safety. What if you drive by an armed robbery?
That's true, too, yeah.
I mean, or what if you drive by an officer that needs backup and you're right there and you didn't hear it?
That's right.
I'll give you my mommy lecture.
She's also earlier in this interview said that she's oftentimes when she's gotten off has ignored drunk drivers. So like, I love the hypocrisy there. It's like, you just told me that like sometimes you put your blinders on because you don't want to pull it over a drunk driver. And I think that's the epitome of that's why I hate officer by the books, because they're only doing things by the books to cover their own ass. Like they're not doing it just to be a good person. But like when I see a drunk, I'm like, fuck, man, I really don't want to work at the DUI, but I really don't want somebody to fucking die because I was so lazy that I didn't pull them over. You know what I'm saying? So I like how the fact that she's, you know, she had went into this like, oh, sometimes I go home and I don't, if I see a truck driver, I'm not stopping, you know, and now she's like, well, that's not good officer safety. That's not policy. I mean, I don't want to be too hard on her. I know she has a job to do, and I know she has to be, you know, she has to say things to get people out of their comfort zone. But I really believe her when she says she puts her blinders on when she sees somebody swerving. I just think that was a funny note. Let me just keep playing for just another second, and then we'll go into this.
So you always log off when you're done?
Majority of the time, yes.
Okay. When you bring her to the passenger side of the car, here's her car. I'm not a good artist either. And here's your car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you bring her over here.
The back right.
Okay.
Passenger side.
Is this where you're having your conversation the whole time?
The whole time when I step out of the car, I'll always talk to him when you had anything on you. So as we're walking here, I'm like, okay, anything on you? Okay. Be careful. I just quick pat you down. Well, just go ahead. Quick pat her down. No, I have weapons I throw or anything like that. I'm gonna lift up your shirt. About right there. There's nothing. Okay. Keep walking. Still checking her out, making sure everything's good. Anything in your shoes? No. Try to take off her shoes. I'm like, are you good? So get inside the car, and that's when I proceeded to ask anything on board.
So she got inside the car.
She got inside the car.
Did you go get in the car and talk, or did you stand there with the door open and talk to her?
I think I did get inside the car for like a quick minute and just see what's the deal is, just talking to her and whatnot. And that's the time where I think I smelt the alcohol just a little bit on her, but nothing. I didn't stay in the car forever and whatnot. Just talked to her for a quick, brief minute.
And then you went up and searched.
Yeah.
So this is really important for me. And this is really, really important for me in this interview, because again, I've listened to this, gosh, guys, I've listened to this 1,000 times because I really didn't want to do this episode if there's any chance that he could be guilty. The allegation here is that he stood outside of her door and forced a blowjob. When she asked him, did you conduct your interview? Did you ever sit inside the car? He says, I sat inside the car. Yeah. I don't think he would have thought that he could. I don't think that he thinks that far ahead. Does that make sense to you? Like if he would have stood there and gotten a blowjob and he would have done the interview, he'd have to be a really smart person to be like, no, I actually sat in the car with her. Especially in the way that was asked, because if he was lying, that would have been a huge pause, because he would have been like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I better say I was standing outside of the car. Or, he'd have to pause to think of the lie. Oh, no, I was standing outside the car and I got a blowjob. But if I answer that I did the interview outside the car, then they're going to know that that's part of the evidence of me getting a blowjob. So I need to say that I was sitting in the car. He would have had a long pause right there. There's no way that he's laid in bed for 3 hours waiting to get called in on a rape charge and thought to himself, okay, when they ask me where I was standing when I interviewed her, I'm going to tell them I sat inside the car. That is just so improbable. It's so unlikely that he could just be so Johnny on the spot and come up with a lie like that with no pause, with no hitch, with no agitation. They said, were you staying outside the car when you interviewed her? No, I think I was inside the car just for a brief minute. That's how I smelled the alcohol. I mean, if he was lying, he wouldn't have said, that's how I smelled the alcohol. He's telling the truth. The reason he smelled the alcohol is because he sat in the car next to her. You cannot make that up unless you have like rehearsed this in your brain and you knew that question was coming. That right there, that was the one key factor to me. When I watched this with a fine-tooth comb, I said to myself that he could not have done that without any kind of indication that he was lying. He cannot be, even a sociopath would not have been able to catch up with that, I don't think. Any comments on that, Drew, being a detective?
I wonder if she was ever polygraphed. I wonder if, like, she's pretty much taken at her word, it seems to me, but he is not. Like, it's almost like it's his ball game to prove that he didn't do it, as opposed to her ball game to prove that she did. And we could probably add like Me Too movement in there. We can add all the other things that Deadleg talked about a little while ago, like Freddie Gray and all this other stuff. I think this happened before all that, to be honest, though. 2014, I think this happened. The trial definitely happened later on, but you're right. I mean, here's the thing: when you're doing these interviews, you watch for the body language. It's only a portion of it. What they're saying is even more important, and how they're saying it, and what they're saying needs to be different from what you're seeing, or what you can kind of, I don't want to say prove, but if he says, like, if you went way back, he's like, yeah, I think I shut my computer off at 50th and Columbus, or whatever he said. That's verifiable. So he's giving you verifiable little breadcrumbs, because you will see inactivity at 50th and Columbus, somewhere around there. He's more concerned about the policy violations, like I've already said. I don't want to keep repeating myself. So these things that she's asking him about and that this other woman is saying, they're all verifiable. Like, you can verify it. And I don't know if you're going to get to the point, or if you've talked about it already, but what would you do if I told you there was DNA in the backseat, or what are you going to do when we find DNA, or what are you going to do when we show you the video? I don't know. Let's go with it. Like, tell me what you got. I'm not. He clearly is not hiding anything.
I don't think he clearly is hiding. Somebody in the comments is making a point that he's not making eye contact. I don't know that you can tell from the video if he's making eye contact or not.
He's making eye contact with the second investigator that's in there, first of all. Second of all, he doesn't need to make eye contact. I'm not an eye contact guy. I wrote this story in my book that, like, when you make eye contact with a gorilla, it makes the gorilla angry. So I've wrote this in my book way before I knew about this case, that so oftentimes I try to not look people dead in the eye because I don't want to agitate them. Making eye contact sometimes strengthens the denial. So when you're like, I'm telling you, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Yeah. It makes your argument stronger, because you're looking at them in the eye. He's got two people that he's talking to. You're not hearing the male voice. The male voice is directly across from him. And those body language expert guys, there's 4 guys and they're phenomenal, believe me. But they did a whole breakdown on this thing, and they have a different opinion than we do. I don't think any of them are cops.
Well, the problem with this one this case is that it's like the Breonna Taylor case, where everybody still thinks he was asleep. And the thing, for those of you who want to fast forward really quick on this case, the only thing that's going to convict him of any crime, the only evidence, is this one this one testimony about DNA. But the problem was that the DNA that was found on him was touch DNA, and there was several other DNA found in the same spot. So it's a zipper. Right. So there was men's DNA on his zipper. There was this girl's DNA on the zipper, his girlfriend's DNA on a zipper. Everybody's DNA is on the zipper, as in, like, that's a great place to touch. Like, you're going to pull down, and then you're going to grab the metal part of your zipper with your other hand, and you're going to unzip it. So you have both hands in the same spot. But they didn't test they didn't test his pockets. They didn't test his underwear. They tested anything out. But in their trial, the prosecution came out with that it was vaginal DNA, because they can't rule out that it wasn't vaginal DNA. Touch DNA can come from anywhere, your eyes, your ears, your nose. But nobody explained that to the jury, that no, dude, stop. Because the media, once they heard vaginal DNA, that's what they ran with. And so every headline was vaginal DNA found, vaginal DNA found. But that's not true. They didn't find vaginal DNA. They just found touch DNA. And
it
several
doesn't
other.
work like that.
It doesn't work like that. And so they never really painted the whole picture. And so when, you know, a lot of these podcasters, that's what their whole thing is like, oh, once I knew that they had DNA, case closed. This guy's a fucking piece of shit. And he had me fooled. This little Roid Raging guy, he had me fooled. But I'm like, you were fooled all the way up into the point that the touch DNA, but you didn't look at the touch DNA?
All right,
and you didn't watch the part of the trial?
What's even scarier, though, Eric, is the people that did watch the trial, the jury. There's a guy on the jury that gave an interview that said the exact same thing. He said, look, I'll be honest. The DNA guys, they're boring. We tuned them out. But the minute that prosecutor said vaginal DNA, we were all in. We all knew that he was guilty. And that's what they hung their hats on. And that's a dishonest statement on the prosecutor's part. So when we say, you know, like good cops hate bad cops, I hate bad prosecutors even worse. I hate these two bad cops that are doing what they can to prove an allegation as opposed to just hearing the story and looking at it objectively. Perhaps they should have had, you know, Oklahoma State Police come in and do this investigation, not investigate one of their own. I think that probably would have gone a long way. But anyway,
what's really funny about this case, and part 3 is even more, is going to just be so exciting to blow it away, is because when they start interviewing all the other women that have the allegations that are caught in dead lying, like there's no, like they are very provable lies, videos, you know, GPS, everything that just shows that they are just 100% not telling the truth. Their interviews completely the opposite of this guy's, and they're not allowed to testify in court. But yet we still go with this whole 21 sexual account allegations, even though 13 of them were proven with 100% that they did not happen, that they are completely lying, which is crazy, right? That's 13 women that just decided to lie, bold-faced lie.
64%.
64%.
64% of your witnesses that came forward were either discredited or proven to be. One was a guy, by the way.
Yep.
But there was a chat, a comment in the chat I just saw that was like, why would there be vaginal DNA from a BJ? It was from another victim. It was vaginal DNA was from the homeless girl that was only 17. So that was the other thing the prosecutor used.
But it wasn't vaginal DNA. It was not. It was touch DNA. But when they asked, could it be vaginal DNA? The way it was answered in court was, it could be, because it could be anything. I mean, touch DNA, it's such a small amount of DNA that we can't tell you where that DNA came from. It could come from her fingernail, could come from her picking her teeth, her eyes, her ears. It could have came from anything. It was so minuscule. And by the way, 2 other dudes' DNA were on the same spot, and his wife. So you're saying that he fucked dudes too? They don't disclose that though in the trial. They just run with what the media is one that runs with. Oh, well, it could be vaginal DNA, so we're going to say vaginal DNA because nobody can say that it's not vaginal DNA. Even though, you know, if there was vaginal DNA, 9 times out of 10, they would be able to, like, it wouldn't be a touch amount, right? It would be like pretty significant amount. But in this case, it was never proven that it was vaginal DNA. It was just, all that they could say is that there was touch DNA, as well as 3 other people's touch DNA on his zipper. I know that I worked a case, but I'm familiar with a case that was being worked in the city that I worked in where they tried to pull DNA from a fork and there was like 700 strands of DNA on the fork. So anyway, just insane stuff like that. So, but the DNA thing is the only thing that really got this guy sentenced to 260 years. And we're going to get into that on the next episode because what's more fun about the Daniel Holtzclaw case is the part 3, where you just get to rip apart these crazy lies. And that's what's going to make my first episode make complete sense. And this is the culture. I want to keep going really quick though, to round this out, this interview out. So we've seen the recap. I'm not seeing much there. I'm going to go with this, this next little part really quick right here. Let's see. Boom. Like right in this area. Oh, no. I'm going to move my screen just a little bit. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Here we go.
You see like a voluntary contact.
Bro.
Okay. Here, think of a cross between this is one picture and this is her. Is that familiar?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Now, you stopped her for sure and ran here on a different day. It was May 8th.
A different allegation that they found that day.
Doesn't look familiar at all. Now, when you stopped her, over at the Liberty apartment area, okay, that's where you stopped her on May 8th. Okay. Now, does that ring a bell at all?
No, never.
Okay. All right. Now, you ran her then. Okay, now she says that.
All right, for you psychologists out there, for you psych people, for you are really into this, okay? This is one that he's been proven to be telling the truth on because the GPS data completely goes against. Now, they don't know what the GPS data is. They haven't done the AVL. All they know is that they called another female and asked if she'd ever had any run-ins with this guy, and she says, yes, I have, and these are the rape allegations, and this is what happened. And so she's also been proven through the trial to not be credible at all, right? Is that am I right on that one, boys?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I think so.
That there's no, that like the evidence actually goes way against, and then she ends up coming out and saying, sorry guys, I was just bullshitting. Like she comes out with it. My bad. So here we go, but watch his mannerisms. And now he's telling the truth. All right. So let's see what he's doing here.
After later on, like you say, later on in the month, there's more kind of a downtown area. Does that ring a bell at all?
I don't recall any of those pictures. I don't recall any of that. I don't ever go downtown besides if I go to the gas station or county or
off-duty jobs. Where do you work on?
I don't have an off-duty. All I was courtesy officer at my apartment.
Okay. So besides Bolero and
maybe
county.
Viper here and there, maybe.
Okay.
That's within our
Where you
on duty.
But you're running Viper out of Spring Lake?
Out of Spring Lake.
Okay. All right. You ever with your car, you ever go visit any buddies, anything like that, or
no
shopping, anything?
No.
Okay. Why would? And granted, you're not even recalling her on the May 8th.
Right.
Okay. But I just wanted you to have a frame of mind of who's making these statements against you. And it's the exact same thing too. Stop her, have her sit in the back seat, run for warmth, then you have her get her out. Okay. Unzip the pants. I mean, on and on and on. We can go through.
I mean,
it's to a T.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know why it's to a T? And even though we know that this female in particular is lying, but do you know why it's to a T? Do you know why every one of these witnesses say that he sat her in the backseat and unzipped his pants and they sucked his dick? Do you know why they say that?
they all talked.
Huh?
Because they all talked.
Well, maybe. I don't have proof of that, but that's how that works for crack rocks in the hood. You've got money, or you can suck my dick. That's how. Listen, like that's how they always. That's how they always suck each other. I mean, how many times have you caught somebody in the cemeteries or in the back of the thing? It's always the same way. I would even argue that you could probably go on a porn site and type in any major big city, and then to type the word porn in after it, and you're going to see a bunch of street hooker porn. I know this from investigations into prostitution, because you can see prostitutes doing shit, but it's always going to be the same way. It's going to be sitting in a car, some kind of a blowy at some sort, sitting in the back of the car, getting on your knees by the back door of the car. I mean, that's how they fucking suck dick. And so
it's not being factored, and perhaps a great interview question for these interviewers when they're interviewing quote victims. And I don't know if they asked or not. How about this? Okay, so where did he put his gun belt? And how did he take his pants down? And oh, by the way, he's wearing compression underwear. So how did he pull his underwear down? Like, those are very important facts. Any sex crimes investigator is going to tell you a high majority of what are called rapes or sexual batteries are simply he said, she said. Something went wrong in the middle of the sex act and she's no longer comfortable, or she thinks he's a jerk, or he's whatever. And then a rape allegation comes out of it. And it's your job as the investigator to either disprove it was against their consent, without consent, or prove that it was without consent. And it's a little bit different for a police officer, because when you are on duty and you have that gun, it's automatically considered a sexual battery. It's automatically considered that you've removed consent from the situation because you have a gun and you have arrest authority over them. But there are still very basic questions you can ask to either exonerate or at least put into your report let it make it into your report that there's exculpatory evidence that disproves what they're saying.
I mean, I think anybody giving a cop a BJ through, because you can't pull your pants down because your gun belt and everything weighs so much. Like if you were to it would take you a hot minute to undo your belt clips. I mean, there would be a lot to go into that. I mean, you're talking that would be a lot. You would not be able to cover that up. If somebody walked up on you, you couldn't get your gun belt up and clipped all back together, in seconds. I mean, you're talking a minute to get all that stuff back on. I mean, you'd have to have a really big hog to get your D sucked through a uniform. I mean, my taser sits right there. Like my penis is probably not going to poke out too much further. She'd be smacking her forehead on my taser. Bow, bow, bow. She'd have a fucking knot in the center of her head from my taser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you'd have to undo your gun belt. And if you undid your gun belt, your whole pants would just drop because that's like 30 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever. I don't know. How much does a gun belt weigh?
I'm going 20 pounds, 25 pounds.
25 pounds. I mean, your pants are just going to fall right to your ankles. Like, so I mean, getting a blowjob with your uniform on seems really, really, really hard to do.
Difficult.
I won't say it hasn't been done.
Sure. But on the side of the road with a disgusting street person. And by disgusting, I say all street people are disgusting because I don't know. I just I'm so afraid of like diseases and shit. Like anybody's disgusting that's just going to suck your dick on the side of the road.
Well, this is kind of the Donald Trump defense that comes into this thing too. This is the common sense part. When he was accused of that last whatever he was actually convicted of, he was convicted of lying in civil court. When those allegations first came out, he literally said, "No offense, but have you seen the women I've been with, and have you seen who's making the allegation?" And Daniel Holtzclaw is a classic example of that. Like, no offense, that's a crack whore. Have you seen my girlfriend? I mean, she's a
kinda hot
from
kind of hot.
She's foxy, as we used to say in the late 80s.
Let me keep playing this for you. So he just watch his mannerisms.
Those people, I don't think I recognize those people.
Well, this is the same one. This is the same one. I'm just showing you a picture.
How she's changed.
Yeah, this has changed. Okay.
That's the same girl.
It's two different time periods, but she looks kind of in between. It's the same girl.
Okay.
Still nothing, even vaguely. She's always on the northeast side.
Dude.
23rd and
God.
Kelly.
That
sticks. Kelly. All right.
This is frustrating.
I mean, she described you to it.
Well, what's frustrating with it?
They're making his argument for him. Let me ask you this, Eric. Have you ever identified somebody have you ever investigated a crime and then pulled a booking photo up to kind of identify who they are?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever pulled up a booking photo and said, that might be him or that might be her. Let me pull up a different booking photo, something more recent.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is exactly, I mean, he's saying, I have no idea who you're talking about. I've never seen that picture. I don't know who that is. Then they're like, well, are you sure? Maybe not that picture, but this picture. They're making his point. She doesn't look like the pictures anyway. And she's always changing how she looks because she's going through the faces of crack or the faces of meth or whatever, they're kind of making his point. Like he's like, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know. To me, it's they're trying to spoon feed him into saying, oh yeah, I remember her now, but he doesn't remember her, and you can't make him remember her.
Yeah, it's so funny because I mean, still to this day, I'll be at the skate park and be like, hey man, are you Officer Tansey? And I'm like, oh damn, yeah, I am. They're like, you remember me? And I'm like, I don't. They're like, you don't remember me? No, I don't remember you. Oh, this happened. X, Y, da, 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 da. And it's like the most, my dad went on a ride along with me and we were at a party and my dad was telling like a story and he told a story about going on a ride along with me. He talks about this guy having his jaw been broken and all this stuff. Now I don't remember any of it. And he was like, you don't remember the guy with the broken jaw? And I was like, no. And he's like, you arrested his brother. And I was like, I do remember vaguely being at that party. Yeah, I do remember that, Dad. I do remember. I know that I arrested a guy with you. I didn't know that he broke the other guy's jaw. And he was like, dude, it was the grossest thing I've ever seen. His jaw was like completely twitched over. It's like that incident had happened so many times in my career that it wasn't even like a blip on a radar. Like I've seen 1,000 broken jaws, 1,000 teeth knocked out, but that was my dad's first. So he remembered every minute detail about the house, everything, but I don't remember any of it except
So that's a great point, Eric, because this detective or these detectives have a caseload of, we'll say conservatively, 30 cases a month. I mean, it's probably more like 60 or 70 cases a month, but they're responsible to know at least a little drib or a drab of each case. And the cases, the bigger they are, the more information obviously they work, because it's higher on the triage list or higher on the priority list. When you're a patrol officer, you work 30 cases an hour, essentially. Every traffic stop is a case. Every report you write is a case. Every jaw that's broken is a case. And by the way, the first time we met, Eric, I was like, you don't remember me? I blew you in the back of your patrol car.
Yeah. Don't even remember that. I've been blown in the back of my patrol car so much, I didn't even remember you.
I know it.
But so I don't think it's like crazy that he doesn't remember who this chick is. Like, get out of here. Who cares? Like, who knows? Like, they're a dime a dozen. They're everywhere around here. It's like, so here we go.
Okay. And like I said, I mean, it's everything. You don't remember her even forget what she's saying. You don't remember offering a ride to the shelter.
I run in contact with a lot of people, and especially at Liberty Station. That's where I patrol. That's my area. It was Charlie 3, but my sector. I go there all the time.
Where is that? Just because I don't know.
26 in Lindsay area. So I don't bring anyone to the shelter. I don't. If I was asked, I would be like, find another way. I haven't brought anyone to the shelter.
It's a good way to get somebody in the car.
Yeah.
Do you remember having contact?
He's like, okay, great. Like, they're saying you didn't take her to the homeless shelter. And he's like, I've never been to that homeless shelter ever. Like, I don't do it. I don't take people to the shelter. Great, good on him. I don't either. I mean, and people will be like, why don't you take them to the shelter? I just don't. I've never had a good experience over at the shelter. They're not going to the shelter. They're getting a ride to downtown. Like, the chances of them actually going to the homeless shelter are slim to actually zero. And if I give them a ride, it's just going to make it more possible for them to go into downtown and do more crimes. Like, I don't go to the homeless shelter because the homeless shelter treats us cops like crap. And it's like we shit in their cereal every time we try to do something nice over there. So I don't fucking go.
Because half the homeless guys in there are with us, and half the guys are against us. There's plenty of guys in there that with mental health issues or warrants, or that have been, I'm ashamed to say it, probably had the shit beat out of them by cops or whatever. So when you go in there, you're creating this kind of energy that the homeless, the people of homeless outreach probably don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? Yeah. The cops are kind of the enemy. And if you remember, I think the guy that does this website, Holtzclaw Trial, I think he was kind of like a homeless advocate, and that's how he got into this. Then he started looking into the case, and he's like, whoa. You can't do this. You can't railroad an innocent cop just because he's a cop.
His statement, which we're going to read next week, is insane because this guy is 100% anti-cop. Yeah. And but after looking at all the evidence, he writes a very, very telling piece of paper that of why he does not think this guy is guilty at all, which doesn't come to the forefront of any news, no mainstream media. I mean, this guy was just guilty from day one. But, when you watch those people break this thing down and they're like, see what he did with his hands right there? He's lying. Well, we know that he's not lying because we've already seen that they after this interview, they've gone and researched this thing to death and can find no GPS of this thing. They cannot find a single date. They can't find a single time. They can't find a single anything. There's zero evidence that dude has ever been in a cop car and taken a woman to a homeless shelter as she alleged happened.
Okay, here's another interview tactic or interview tip for you young cops out there, for the civilians that are just wanting to know. If you're lying about something, like if you've got an interrogator in front of you, you're trying to do one of two things. You're either trying to talk your way out of it, or you're trying to see how much information they actually have to see how screwed you are. Other than that, you shouldn't be talking to them anyway. But when you are talking to them, you're not giving them information that's going to help exonerate you. In other words, your answers are going to be clouded with like minute details that's going to send you on a wild goose chase. And he's saying just classic stuff like no, go ahead, look in my back seat, or no, I've never been down to that homeless shelter. again, it's all easily verifiable. Or I can't remember the one that the major one slipped my mind, but he's giving them very specific information as opposed to, listen, I deal with 10,000 homeless ladies a day. You know, that's something a guilty person would say, or someone who's being deceptive. Look, I dealt with 45 people last night, because what that's going to do is it's going to tie up the investigator trying to find 45 different people. He's saying, I've never seen that woman. I may have run her, or I don't remember who she is. I mean, I may have taken her to jail for all I know. I'm telling you, I don't remember her. Like, he's giving very specific information, not nervous about it whatsoever, just talking. He's trying to, probably at this point thinking he's in the Twilight Zone.
Right. He's thinking like, this is such bullshit. Like, there's got to be tons of evidence that shows I didn't do this. And there was tons of evidence that he didn't do it.
From a rehab center. Even saying, you know, you take her, driving her around, anything like that. Okay. Do you ever, every time you have a female in the back, do you go 10-14, or you just kind of zip on over?
No, I don't. Usually it's all the times if I do. It's supposed to say policy. It's supposed to let them dispatch.
Who cares about policy right now? Because we don't at this point. Do you do the mileage and do all that, or
Can't here and there.
sometimes you don't?
Sometimes I don't.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't.
Honest.
Yeah. Sometimes I just don't do
Going
it.
back to this other deal. You're saying about 15-minute traffic stop.
Bad habit, but it's
How
honest.
long do you usually take on traffic stop, just on average?
Maybe 20 minutes.
So here's funny, right? He says maybe 20 minutes. He's a new cop. I had a use of force. I had a use of force report, the big one, the one where I just got my teeth shattered in the back and I broke my arm, and can't say where I tried. I mean, the psychologist looked at this case. Everybody looked at this case, and of course, it was the whole thing was 100% on video. It was great, but they were like, how long was your traffic stop? I was like, dude, I waited for about 15 minutes. Do you know how long the whole thing was?
No.
8 minutes and like 50 seconds, the whole encounter. But like I said, that from the time I called for backup, I waited an additional 15 minutes. So if you would have went by my timeline on that traffic stop, that would have been a 30-minute traffic stop.
Right.
Because when you're on the scene, dude, it doesn't feel like, the average traffic stop, if you were to ask me before I knew all this, what my average traffic stop was, I would say 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes of traffic stop. It feels like forever, even though they're only 6 to 8 minutes every time. Yeah. If you look at all my traffic stops, they're always like between 6 and 8 minutes. Even when I search a car, it might go to like 10 or 11 minutes. I would have promised you that all my traffic stops are 15 to 20 minutes. And if I search the car, 30 to 45 minutes. Because it feels like forever when you're on the scene with them. When you're typing it, it feels like forever.
Yeah. Plus, okay, so two things. There's always a timer that goes off in the communication center, and I was always the worst at this, believe it or not, coming from me. So it's either 4 minutes or 5 minutes into your traffic stop. They're supposed to check on you to make sure you're still okay.
Right.
And I would always be out of the car with my radio turned down, having a conversation in that 4th minute, always. Right. And then I would feel my phone vibrate in my pocket, and it would be a cue to turn my radio up and say, "Hey, I'm okay. I'm just out here, talking." So that's at the 4-minute mark. Sometimes I'm clearing the call by the 4-minute mark or the 5-minute mark. Now, the other side of that coin is when you've got a very aggressive officer, and I don't mean aggressive to the citizens. I mean aggressive patrol officer, like a good street cop. They don't want to take the bullshit burglary. They don't want to take the bullshit bike theft. So they've been on a traffic stop for 6 or 10 minutes, and there's that stupid homicide holding. You're not going to clear right away.
Yeah.
You're going to clear when somebody gets that call, and you're going to hit, okay, I'm 10-8 now, and then you can go to another traffic stop, or you could go back somebody else up on the same shitty call that they just got.
Yeah.
It's a fact of life.
Yeah, and I would argue that 15 minutes is really not that long of a traffic stop. 20 minutes. I mean, internet can suck. They can talk to you forever. You might be doing a search. Backup might show up. You might chat with the backup for a second. If it's just a random speeding ticket, you can be out in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. But if you're in the hood and you're doing hood shit and you're trying to get hood things, like you can be like, yo, what happened with the what happened with Tyree and JJ last week? And I'll be like, oh, you heard about that? What'd you hear? And you're like, well, I heard that Tyree started some shit, blah, blah. And they're like, no, JJ started that shit. And you're like, really? You think JJ started that shit? Why do you think JJ started that shit? Well, let me tell you what. JJ's cousin, you know what I mean? And then like you go on and you're just learning more hood shit. And you might even do a report on that. You'd be like, yo, I talked to so-and-so at this traffic stop. I mean, it happens in the hood. It's the hood traffic stops. That's why I did that first episode all about hood policing is so different. You don't do that kind of shit in North Hills because one, nobody has nicknames in North Hills and nobody's committing crimes in North Hills. So it's like, if I pull over Susie Q in her white Mercedes, I'm like, yo, Susie Q, you hear anything on that Nextdoor app about, so-and-so leaving their garage open for 6 hours? They're like,
Susie,
I've already got with the HOA on that one.
Susie, what is your nickname? And she's like, Doctor.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Susie. So, I mean, just hood policing's different. Let me keep playing
That's
this.
a long time.
Now,
That's a
20
long
minutes. Now,
time.
It's not.
I hate her, by the way.
20 minutes. Now, that's going to be some 800 time, right?
800, searching the car in detail, all that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
do all of that, all the running, waiting in line, and even on a search. Now, the question I have is we got a lapse of time here, so I'm kind of get a better handle on where the time went. You're talking about 15 minutes, no 800, no running on the computer. You shut it down. And you said it was just a quick little search of the car. Where's the rest of the time?
Just talking to her. just see where you go and trying to get her to confess. Are you drunk or not? Like, are you been drinking? Because I could smell it when I was in the car, but I can't really get it.
Well, what if she said, yes, I'm drunk?
I probably would have took her down.
Did you do any tests?
I didn't do any sobriety tests. Just from inside the car, smelling it, and that's about it. Emotional, maybe.
But even that'd be just within a minute or two. I mean, I used to be DRE, so I know how long those questions will last. So then you switch on over. But nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a lot of drunk questions, like how much
have you been drinking? Mainly it's just have you been drinking, try to get her confessed. Is there anything inside that juice? No. Why are you driving so late at 2 o'clock? And where are you going? Going to Arbor on the west side. Who are you gonna see? Just trying to just talk to her. But,
So here's the thing is though, if they don't have a timestamp on this and he's saying 15 minutes because it's just easy to say and you're just like, dude, I don't fucking know. I mean, it could have been 6 minutes, could have been 15 minutes. I don't really know. I'll just say 15 minutes, right? Like that would be the number I went with for sure. Well, 15 minutes would have been my for sure number. How long was you on that traffic stop? 15 minutes. I mean, that would have been my answer no matter what. If I didn't know.
They were probably pairing it with the surveillance video they had from the building because there is a grainy video of him doing that traffic.
Right, but did they have that yet? I don't think they had that.
Did.
Oh, they did. They did have that. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because they made mention of it in the
but 15 minutes to me, like that's what I would have said right off the bat, baby. I would have said 15 minutes because like it takes 15 minutes, man. You could be like, yo, the reason I pulled you over, I'm just so nervous because you have a gun. Why are you nervous? I have a gun. Like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, dude, this isn't Ferguson. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fucking shoot you, blah, 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 and, I don't know. 15 minutes to me seems very reasonable. These guys are freaking out about it. Like 15 minutes. That seems like a long time. I'm like, I don't think that's a long time.
I think half of them are freaking out about it. I think the other half is genuinely trying to account for the time. In other words, he doesn't care about the 15 minutes. He cares about
what did you do in 15 minutes? Yeah.
But
right, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens in 15 minutes.
Maybe took 40 seconds.
40 seconds in here, dummy.
And you said 5 at the car. So then we got 10 of a lot of questions.
Okay, right here, he should be shifting in his chair.
I mean, you can tell me it wasn't there. I mean, obviously,
like if he's getting uncomfortable, he should
like if he's nervous, if he thinks he's lying, he'd be like, "Oh God, they're putting it on."
He'd be repositioning himself. Yeah, I mean, he is locked into
bad. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, dude, I don't know. I don't fucking know. Like 15 minutes. Like I talked to her for 15 fucking minutes. I'm a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's laughing.
Roughly on a traffic stop, take about 20 minutes. It was the quickest traffic stop, about 15 minutes.
That's your quickest traffic stop.
No,
okay, you're a slowpoke.
I don't really get 1090 at all or anything like that, but I take my time sometimes.
But you didn't write her tickets.
Didn't write her ticket.
You didn't write them.
Didn't run her.
You didn't even put yourself out.
Didn't put myself out.
How could you take 15 minutes on that?
Just talking. I'm listening to talking. So.
Yeah, I'm fine with the question, and I'm fine with the answer.
Sure.
I can't see her wanting to talk if she's crying and asking if you're going to shoot her and all this. I don't see her being real forthcoming with conversation.
By the way, almost every single traffic stop in the hood starts out that same way.
Well, stop for a second, though. If she's crying and saying that I wanted to shoot her and all that, I didn't shoot her, so obviously she's lying right off the bat. So what makes you think that she's not intimidated by me after the traffic stop is over? She had a 30-year suspended license or something like that.
Yeah.
He didn't take her to jail, so that's another thing he's nervous about. So if she's lying to you right off the bat about that, or she's lying to me right off the bat about that, trying to get out of something, doesn't that indicate that she'll say anything to get out of it? Like, and Daniel's responses are, to me, exactly what they should be, as in, I don't know what to tell you. I know what you're looking for, but it didn't happen. So I don't know what to tell you, basically.
Yeah. Let's go.
Because the other thing is,
my question.
Go ahead.
Is you got to think he's answering questions about his mindset of that night. So that night when he's just getting off work, he's seeing his car, it's driving a little crazy. He's thinking, oh crap, there might be a DUI. So I'm going to stop this car. And he, in that time, in that 15, 20 minutes, he is either building a case for a DUI or he's making sure that he can justify why he let this person go. So right now he's explaining, he's thinking, oh, I think, I'm justifying why I took 15 or 20 minutes is because I want to make sure that this person's either drunk or not. And then I let him go. So now I have to explain, oh, I smelled alcohol, but I let him go. I smelled alcohol, but I didn't do a field sobriety test. I didn't do a PBT. I didn't do any pre-exit. I didn't do any of the normal DUI stuff. I didn't do any of the DRE stuff. But you're trying to build that case. So he's that 15 minutes. You're talking with them. You're getting there. So when you ask them, hey, for your driver's, like if you're working a DUI investigation, you ask for your driver's license, they give them a credit card. That's a clue. It's not like a for sure slam dunk, this person's drunk, but that's one clue in the slew of things that you're going to put in your report. I've seen this vehicle swerve. I've seen the vehicle not maintain a single line. The vehicle couldn't maintain speed. All these things before I even stop the vehicle. And then when you stop the vehicle, all these things are going to go in a report. So someday, instead of two detectives, he's talking to prosecutors and defense attorneys on this DUI case instead of this sexualization case. So his mindset of that time frame is a DUI case. So, and he's still thinking right now, what policies did I screw up here? Because I've justified detaining someone for 15 or 20 minutes, but I don't have anything to show for it. I didn't write her a ticket. I don't have a report. It wasn't even called in. So now I've deprived someone of their freedom for 20 minutes. I have to answer for this. And he's trying to justify why he's answering for it, other than the part where he put his penis in her mouth.
Right. I think it's also important to note here that when the evidence was brought to this car, like the car has very tinted windows, and he had no computer to run the screen. So how did he know that this was a female, and how did he know it was going to be a female that he'd want to put his penis in her mouth? You know,
because
what I mean?
there was also a very a poignant part of the beginning of the interview where the female detective said, so at what point did you pull up next to her? And he said, I never pulled up next to her. And she's saying, you didn't come up next to her at a light, you didn't pull up alongside of her before you pulled over? And he said no. So he didn't know it was a female in there.
Right. So if he's on the prowl, on the hunt, I'm not sure that's where you go for that. Let me keep playing this.
Whatnot. That's it, man.
You don't seem, I don't know how you were out there, but just kind of talking with you. You seem real laid back and everything like that. I've never got the impression of just kind of an angry type cop. We know some,
right.
That, you might would ask, but I don't see that question coming up of you.
Right.
And you're not saying she was drunk or high or,
I didn't think she was drunk or bleeding limit, .08. And like I said, I didn't make any threats to her. She was just emotional because admitted the gun deal, or she saw a cop and she said, you got a gun. So I was like, calm down.
Everybody is.
Yeah. And so I guess she brought that up and I was like, calm down.
When she asked,
which by the way, he said that earlier on in the interview as well.
What point did she ask
that? She asked that right when we were searching the passage and when we were in the back of the car.
She brought it up twice.
Twice.
She just says, "You got a gun," or what?
Yeah, and then starts crying. I'm like, "Don't get emotional. It's okay."
Did she ever say you shouldn't do this?
No.
Or I can't do this?
No.
So my question or my thought there is that she's got specific statements
She
from
just
this
says you
victim.
got a gun.
Yeah, of course.
You got a gun.
Are you going to shoot me?
And then I don't think she ever said that.
No, you said last time. I said, did she?
Maybe she said that, but then I was like, "Do you have any bad runs in with the cops?" She's like, "No."
That just doesn't fit. That's just weird.
Yeah.
And that's what.
It's called
So
hoodlum.
why are you asking me?
I'm kind of in
Ask
there
her.
too. I don't know if I think she was drunk, but I know there's pills on board. I don't know. So it wasn't to the point.
Do you carry a Glock? Oh, you
I
don't
do,
have it
yeah.
on you. I don't even pay attention.
I didn't even pay attention. Do you have your gun on you? She looks over. Oh, you don't have a gun on you. I wasn't even paying attention. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem I have with all these detectives is that whole high and mighty thing. You know, they're really quick to talk to you about policies and oh, don't you think that's weird? Well, I mean, I could say the same thing right now. If I wanted to play devil's advocate and I wanted to be a dick about the whole situation, I could be like, well, don't you think it's weird that you didn't know that a cop that you're interviewing didn't have a gun? Don't you think it's weird that you had to ask a cop what kind of gun he carries in your own department? Don't you think that's weird? Like, if we want to play that game of like, let's sharpshoot people and like, and try to paint some kind of a broad picture. I mean, it's very easy to catch somebody on their every move and their every mannerism, because I could do that with her just as much. I wouldn't do that because, I mean, it's an honest mistake that we could all make. That's fair. But what she's being is unfair. She's like, 20 minutes? I mean, don't you think that's against policy? I mean, it's like, we could do the same thing to you, ma'am. Like, we could say the same thing to you, detective. Like, don't you think it's weird that you didn't know he had a gun on, like that you took his gun already? Like, don't you think that's where you're asking this guy if he remembers somebody from like 3 months ago and he's telling you didn't, but you can't even remember taking this guy's gun away from him before he came in the interview room?
It's also conceivable. It's also conceivable that they had the same interviews and interrogations instructor. Like I can't tell you how many detectives I've put through my course, and I can't tell you how many academies I've taught. I'm the same guy. So they're doing the same dance. He knows what they're saying and they know what he's saying, you know what I mean? And they're just, I think they're stymied because you're not going to get this guy to cop because he didn't do anything. And they're frustrated by that.
Right. I'm going to keep going because this gets better.
The one you got in the academy?
Yes.
What else you taking besides that pro hormone?
It's about creatine.
What in the creatine?
Just creatine, monohydrate. I don't know exact ingredients in it.
But I'm saying, is it in something? I mean, is it like an intra workout, a pre-workout?
Yeah, pre-workouts are in creatine.
Okay. But give me the names of what you're using.
There's a lot of supplements I take.
How much money you spend on supplements?
Costs a lot. Supplements cost a lot.
Start rattling them.
C4 pre-workout. No explode. Let's see. Dymatize has some. Condense.
Dymatize has what? You mean for your protein?
I take their protein.
You taking any injection?
No. It's pro hormones.
Okay. You got anything to offset the pro hormone stuff?
Liver pills, because I guess it's bad to take oral, so I take liver pills. That's about it. Multivitamins, med sports multivitamins. That's about it.
All this stuff, does it make you? Do you ever get mad?
I know. Then
aggressive.
That all is a myth.
I think I'd have been pissed right about now.
That's personality, I guess.
It feels like at this point in the interview, they're an hour and 40 minutes into it. They have no idea where to go.
Hold on. So I know where he's trying to go with this, which is a really crazy thing because they use this in the trial a lot, so much so that the jury, that other podcasters, almost all the other podcasts, the little true crime podcasters, they are target fixated that this dude is a roid rager. What does roid rage have to do? That what they want to do is paint this dude as a toxic raper male.
Okay.
And so the evidence that they have that he's a toxic raper white male is that he's built, he's jacked, and now he could be on steroids. That would be the only thing that would lead him to go get a street woman, as he would think, or a hood woman to suck his dick, you know?
Right.
And again, I say hood woman because even they, when they are interviewing women, they say that they only interview black women with high rap sheets. So like that's coming from them, not from me.
And drug histories. You know, also, he was a pro football player, for those of you who don't know.
Right.
I don't think he ever made it onto the NFL fields, but he was a pro football player. I think he was drafted or something.
Yeah.
One. And two, you don't get to pick and choose where your roid rage happens. So if testosterone is manufactured, testosterone is coursing through your body, it's not like you can... I just want the rape kind of testosterone. I don't want I'm going to lose my temper type of testosterone. Because if he were a roid rager, his use of force incidents would have been through the roof. That would be easily verifiable as well. Take a look in the last 3 years, how many use of force incidents has he had? Because he would have used excessive force on at least a dozen occasions.
Well, I mean, listen, all my friends do roids. A lot of cops that I work with do roids. Most of the dudes I was in the military with do roids. Only one dude that I met had actual roid rage. And it came out, he butt stroked a poor Afghan right in the face, splitting his shit wide open, and they sent him home. It comes out. Like, you can't hide it. If you're a roid raging guy, like that shit comes out real quick. All your friends know about it. You're going to have, it's like a person that drink, just because you drink alcohol, is everybody a bad drunk? No, if I drink alcohol, does that mean I get like I'm a horny drunk or I'm a mean drunk? It's just everybody's different. Some people are horny drunks. Some people are fight drunks. Some people are, storyteller drunks. I mean, I don't know. Some people are go to sleep. Some people are Irish exit drunks. I mean, I know 1,000 different types of drunks. I think that, some people drink and then they have to get in the car and fucking drive. Like I have a friend that, like, we're not really that close friends anymore, but we were in the military, and like he had a badass Mustang that was really fast, and he loved to get fucked up, and he loved to go get in his car and drive, and would brag about it and boast about how fast and how drunk he would drive. It's crazy to me that he did that. It's crazy that I tolerated that as a young 20-year-old. 39-year-old me would be like, dude, are you fucking crazy? Like, I'll beat your fucking ass if you get in that car. Back then I was like, dude, you're nuts. Man. Like, oh, you're wild. So, but they're trying to paint this picture as him being this toxic, white, rapey guy. And he's just kind of like, no, I want to keep playing this. Cause again, this is where he's telling the truth, but he's been telling the truth the whole time. But this is something that we can know that he's telling the truth, right? Because we know that the GPS and everything leading up to this all concluded that he was telling the truth that whole time. So
the other poignant thing too, I think, Eric, is if he is such a roid rager and he's out of control and he's so strong, why would she be making reference to his gun? He wouldn't need a gun. He could just grab her by her chicken neck and throw her all over the place.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, here we go.
NFL, I've seen guys do it. College, I've seen guys do it.
You didn't do it?
Never did it.
How come?
I started as a true freshman in college, so I got random tested by NCAA. NCAA tests for all that as far as steroid use. You get tested in college just for street drugs. So I didn't know when randomly they could do it.
Why weren't the other guys worried about it? What happened if they got caught on it?
They didn't care. I cared. I didn't want to. I started as a true freshman. I didn't want to do that. It wasn't about me. I was a big bum kid. I didn't need to get stronger. I didn't feel like I think that would come natural. I didn't feel like I needed to get faster or anything like that.
What happened if you got caught doing it in a random test?
The NCAA would suspend you. You'd be dead.
But like anything, there's always something before they ban it and stuff.
Yeah.
The old Andro days and stuff.
Yeah. So.
Did you do the supplements and all that then?
Yeah, but back then you had to be a little careful as far as talk to your team doctor. What's in this? Is this FDA approved? Just don't have that risk of actually, getting tested for a small ingredient and whatnot.
Stop for a second.
Okay.
Would you be able to hold this small talk conversation if you've been accused of raping a girl?
No.
Or would you be crawling out of your skin right now? Like, I don't have time for this small talk bullshit. Like, I can't, from an interviewer standpoint, unless he is like on fentanyl right now, there is no way he's going to be that calm. There's just no way.
There's no way you would have the confidence that he's like destroying an interview. Like, people don't go in there and be like, I'm about to murder this interview, dude. I'm about to lie so good. I'm about to have the best time. I'm about to have everything in order. And I'm so confident that, yeah, I mean, I'll talk to you about steroids and the NCAA and be nonchalant, just not care. I'm not fidgeting. I'm not like, dude, this guy is like, and unless he's a sociopath, and he's not, like, he's not a sociopath because he cried like a little bitch when he fucking got 260 years. This dude's not a, like, nothing about this tells me nothing about this interview shows any type of like crazy guilt or anything like that. I don't understand like how these podcasters and stuff can come out and rip this interview apart the way that they do, you know, knowing that he hasn't tested for any of these things. By the way, the police departments test you for everything. Yes. And the big thing is that they went and interviewed all of his ex-girlfriends, all of his families, and he has zero history. So like, he just woke up and was like, you know what? I'm a good-looking, strong, beefy motherfucker. I want to get my dick sucked right now. Like, that guy can go get his dick sucked by any female cop in his district, you know, guaranteed. Yeah. Like, I mean,
but what's the, like, because he's in peak physical performance, why is it automatically assumed, or why is it even assumed that it's chemically related? So in other words, if she said, you know, I tested Mensa, I'm 150 on my IQ test. I mean, he would, like, would anybody say, well, obviously you cheated on your, no one would say that. I mean, it would be offensive to say that. Okay, so come out with it. What'd you do? Did you give it did you give your ID to somebody else to take the test for you? Did you pay them to give you the answers? That would be completely offensive. But they're doing the exact same with him. They're like, okay, so let's go back to the NCAA days when, you know, back when you were using steroids. And he's like, no, I was clean. I got tested the whole time. I had asked the team doctor if the supplements I were using were clean. Go ahead, Eric.
Yep. I'm going to finish up. This is the last part of the interview I'm going to show you guys because this is where the whole thing goes south and where they call him a liar. So this is the one part. Now, the one part that I told you I call him a liar and I fast forwarded past that just for time's sake. But they ask, was she drunk? I think we did see it. I just didn't pause the video in time. But they say, do you think she was drunk? He shifts hard. And then he goes like this. And then he's like, No, I don't think she was drunk. That's the only time that he deviates from anything that he's saying. Like, did you pull her over? Yeah, I pulled her over. Did you do this? Yeah, I did this. The only time that he acts or completely changes his demeanor before he answers the question is they say, do you think she was drunk? Which probably tells me it was on the fence. Drunk. She was drunk, and he was like, because he would not have offered to follow her if he knew she was 100% good. I think that he got her and he was like, I mean, she doesn't have warrants. It's a 30-year, it's a chick. She's already crying. It's already shitty. Like, fuck, I'd have to open up my,
He's thinking right now in this, he's like, they're just trying to trick me with this sexual battery shit. They're just trying to get me to admit that she was drunk and they're going to fucking fire me for it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the only time I catch him lying is when they ask him if he's drunk. And I mean, of course, I can't tell that he's lying because we don't know if she's drunk or not. But like, I feel like that was my one indicator. I was like, oh, that wasn't very truthful, was it? And that's when I was watching this with a fine-tooth comb, watching all the mannerisms. Now, here's the other part. This part actually does confuse me, so I'll play this for our audience. So right now he's just sitting there by himself. Obviously, you know, they do this. Let me get to the 58:30 mark. There we go. Is that playing through on you guys' end? I keep sitting there. All right, cool. This is an allegation. Yeah, so we'll see. Here we go. Greg says, so if he actually raped her, he would be acting differently, but he doesn't even know the full allegations yet.
You created some more work.
Oh, here we go. Now she's pissed.
I just talked to Karen. She said she was asleep when you got home, and you did not try to have sex, and you did not have sex.
All right, so some context here. In his timeline, he said he got home. They said, what did you do after that? And he said, to be honest with you, I tried to have sex with my girlfriend, but she didn't want to have sex, so I went to sleep. And they said, oh, so she wanted to have sex? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I tried to put it in her, and then she was like, I don't want to have sex. And they're like, oh, so you tried to have sex? Interesting, you know? I was like, yeah. And they're like, do you have sex every day? He's like, yeah, I have sex every day. Who does that sound like to you, Drew?
Me?
Sure. Or me. Like, ask me if I have sex every day. I'm going to tell you I have sex every day. Is my wife going to have the same answer?
No.
Probably not.
But they didn't say, they wouldn't ask you, are you having sex with your wife every day?
Oh, but I'm having sex with my hand. All right. Here we go.
No, and she said no. You did not try to have sex.
As much as I don't want to involve her, I tried to have sex with her and she was asleep. Carrie goes to sleep pretty early, 9, 10 at the late.
Okay, but she would know if you tried. I'm a woman.
I know.
And my husband comes home in the middle of the night, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been asleep. You said
she seems like a kind of bitch that would be like that too.
You put it in a little bit, and then she said, "I'm tired."
I did.
She would remember that to tell me.
Shoot, maybe.
She said you did not try to have sex.
And it's more personal because it's Carrie, but I did try to have sex with Carrie.
Carrie doesn't also doesn't know the context, and Carrie is probably trying to protect him.
I was gonna say the same thing. Now, this is a good Christian couple too. And that's his girlfriend. Yeah. So I don't know. I think like because he's a very religious person outside of this, and so is Carrie. So like that's a very religious stance to take, right? Like, no, we didn't have sex last night, type deal. Like, you don't know. Like,
it's not the Sabbath.
Here's the also thing too is that like they're not cops. So like when you're a cop, you can't lie. Like that lying is going to get you fired faster than anything. So you just don't lie. So you just be completely out with the truth. Unless you know that the truth is just absolutely not going to set you free. And so in this case, he thinks the truth is absolutely going to set him free. So he's telling you the truth. I believe he's telling the truth, everything that he says, to be honest with you. And, but my wife has no problem like lying to my kids. Like she'll straight up lie to the kids. They'll be like, what were y'all doing last night? And she'll be like, we were doing that. And I'm like, why did I just tell them that we watched a fucking movie after we sent them to bed? Or like, who had cookies? I don't know. There's cookies in the trash can. Well, I don't know. Like, why did I just tell them we had the cookies last night? Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I ate the cookies. I'm the dad. I paid for the cookies. You were in bed. It's not I don't have to, it's not my duty to wake you up and offer you fucking warm cookies. Like, I can eat the last of the cookies. I'm the man of the house. So, I don't know, like, this is funny, but I'm going to keep playing it. But is he lying? I don't know. And what would be the purpose of him lying?
Well, how would she remember if she were asleep? Also,
well, she's going to get into that too.
I don't know what to say. Because it just looks like I just caught you in a lie, and now I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe.
Okay.
Because you tell
believe
me this,
I
go to verify it. She tells me the opposite, and now I'm wondering what you're telling the truth about.
Maybe because she doesn't know what the heck's going on.
No, she doesn't. I didn't tell her.
And I'm glad, but detectives calling her, any other officer asking her a question like
embarrassed.
That, she may be scared. And I don't want to involve her, but
she's involved
that's
because
my girlfriend. That's
you need her involved for you,
right?
But now she's given the story that you're not given.
I'm telling you, I tried to have sex with Carrie, my girlfriend.
Hold on a
She's
second.
gonna remember your weenie twirling around her hoo-ha.
Oh my God. I want to punch her. Listen.
I can't take her, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sure she's probably a good detective and a good human being, but right now she's become target fixated. And I don't know if she's putting on an act because she's trying to
she's trying to
things by the books.
And they really are asking him questions that they need answers to.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, but like, I'm still annoyed about how she asked it.
But I'm going to tell you this. My wife right now, okay, well, let's exclude her because she's a cop. So
my wife literally walked into the studio, and like in the last 2 seconds, she has no idea the context of the show. I don't talk to her about any of this stuff. I'm gonna ask her like out loud really quick. I just want to see what her answer would be. What is that? Do we have sex yesterday morning? All right, cool. She said yes.
Team player.
All right, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you're not a cop, right? Like your wife's not a cop, I get it. And a female calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm Detective so-and-so. I work with Daniel, and I know this is going to be an odd question, and just one woman to another. I want to see if he's lying or not. Did he try to fuck you when he came home last night?" I mean, she's probably laying in that bed or wherever she is on the phone thinking, "Is this motherfucker really having a side piece call me and ask me and try to catch him in a lie?" Or, I mean, there's like 100 different things. Unless the male called and said, "Look, he could be facing some serious trouble. We're just trying to verify his story. We mean no harm to you. We mean no harm to him. I just got to ask you a very personal question." But I'm telling you, if the chick called my ex-wife and said, "Hey, did he try to bang you this morning?" she'd be like, "Who the fuck are you? And where can we meet?"
Yeah.
And we'll meet that. We'll talk about this face to face. That's just my observation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's see what he says.
You remember that. I'm sorry, I don't care how much of a sleeper you are. You remember because it pisses you off in the middle of the night and you go, "Are you serious? Don't bother me with that."
Maybe you should call her and ask her if she's a deep sleeper. Because there's multiple times I've tried to do that. Most times we've had sex. Most times she has pushed me off.
You told me that you have sex every day, and she says you did not have sex today.
Okay.
Sweet.
Well, you said you have sex every day.
Mostly every day, yes.
Oh,
So
my
if
God.
I call her back, is she going to tell me that you'll have sex every day?
We did not have sex, but recently, mostly every day, yeah.
I'm a woman, and I know what it feels like to be woke up for sex, and I don't like that. And you remember it, and I don't.
All right, I don't see where this is germane to the investigation, and as a matter of fact, I think this is kind of a sexual harassment issue. You asking me that, so don't ask me that
You're a
anymore.
dude. Does your wife get pissed off if you try to wake her up in the middle of the
She
night?
had white thong on and a t-shirt. And
Okay, you talk to him. I'm gonna go call her again.
I'm gonna go call her again.
Because right now, I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Okay,
believe it.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my thing too. It's like this is why it's like really hard for me to like this woman, and like I know she's probably pretty cool in real life, but
I
like,
don't think so.
God dang, dude, like shut the fuck up. Okay, I caught you in a lie. It's just like you're coming across as like a huge Karen, and you have a Karen haircut, and there's no way anybody's trying to wake you up for sex. Period. They're just not gonna do that. Like nobody is waking your ugly ass up for sex. I mean, I
With a
hate to
white
be a
thong.
mean dude, but like, come on, man, like. Nobody's trying to wake you up for sex.
I'll tell you this too.
And there are times where I have done shit like this to my wife and she doesn't remember it. There's been times that I have jayed off and I'll be like, "Yo, I jayed off last night." And she's like, "You did?" And I was like, "Yeah, I fucking was sucking on your tits while I did it." And she was like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Yes, I did." So like I slept through it type thing absolutely can happen because I've fucking done it and I've gotten away with it several times. And have I raped my wife? No, because you can't rape your wife.
I'll tell you, I went to.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. God, that was a joke. You can absolutely rape your wife, but I've never done it. So
I went to. By the way, when I went through my internal affairs investigation, which one day we'll all discuss in merriment, they brought They told my wife that she had to come in for. I wasn't married to a cop at the time. I was married to a teacher. But they said, no, we want your wife to come in and do an interview. And I was like, what? Yeah, we want your wife to come in. I'm like, bullshit. I went to the attorney, and the attorney said, "Look, man, this is the lowest of the low. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing other than in a big investigation like a homicide, what you try to do is create turmoil within the family so the other person will cop to whatever. So I'll tell you what, if I were you, I'd send her in there and jam this interview right up their asses because she has nothing to hide, does she?" And I was like, fucking absolutely not. And so Margarita, my ex-wife, went in there and fucking knocked it out of the park. She told him everything I told him to a fucking T without knowing what she was going to be asked. And it was a complete intrusion. And by the way, her mother was dying of terminal cancer at the time. That's how much they gave a fuck. That's how your family works. That's how your family treats you, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right,
Anyway.
let me play this. We're almost done.
Brown paper set. Okay, don't start yet.
Oh, does it matter
So-
if you're just being all nervous and whatnot?
All right, hold up. Here we go. Let's see here. Here we go.
Oh, you're a dude. Does your wife get pissed off if you try to?
Oh
It's
god.
only Carrie right now.
Carry it.
All right.
All right, man. Pants in this bag. And
So what you guys miss here is they ask, would you be willing to give up all your stuff for DNA? Can we swab you for DNA? He says yes. All the way around. He said, would you do a polygraph? He says, sure. Let's do a polygraph. For the sake of time, you can go and watch that. That's going to be just past the 2-hour 3 mark. If you want to go and watch that on YouTube on your own, I'm not going to sit here and just keep playing this as he's taking off all of his clothes because we're already 2 hours over this.
They tell him we're going to process the back seat of your car, and he's like, okay. Zero affect. Zero.
Doesn't care.
Like,
They ask him if they can swab DNA out of his mouth. Go ahead. At any point, if this dude, oh, and by the way, the DNA swab on the female's mouth came back negative. And when we get to the trial next week, she's going to say, the toxicologist is going to say, the biologist is going to say, unfortunately, there was no DNA found in her mouth. Unfortunately being the key word there, which shows that there's a huge bias in this case. But, at no point does he lawyer up. Now, when they ask him to do the polygraph test, he says, yes, go ahead. Yeah, of course I'll do it. Now, he doesn't know that the department doesn't have that readily available right now. I would have no idea. They keep the polygraph so tight-nipped in the police department. I don't know how I know that I've taken it twice, but I don't know how it works. The guy that does it's fucking creepy. I don't know how much he gets paid. I don't know what his rank is. They ask you, one time I went in there and they did the polygraph and I was done in 10 minutes. The second time I did the polygraph, I was in there for an hour and 15 minutes and they asked me the same questions over and over and over and over again. I have never smoked weed. I've never done weed in my life. Still to this day, I've never smoked weed. I've done the marijuana gummies now since being out of the military. Out of the police department. I've done the gummies when I broke my arm because I didn't want to take the prescription pills. Other than that, I've never done recreational drugs of any kind, of any sort. I've never smoked marijuana ever, not even once. But for some reason, they didn't want to believe that the second time I did the interview. So they just kept going on and on. They're like, what about contact high? I'm like, I don't think I've been contact. I haven't been around anybody smoking enough weed. Maybe can you get it at a concert? Because I've been to a concert before where the smell was overwhelming, but I don't feel like I was high. Anyway, I don't know. I guarantee you this guy doesn't know how that works either. And so when he says I'm going to do it, the problem with them was they couldn't do it because they didn't have the polygraph ready. They didn't have it set up. They didn't have the guy to come in. They didn't have it contracted out. They didn't have it ready to go. So when he goes and leaves there, because they've read him his Miranda rights at this point, he goes and he lawyers up because that's what you do after you've told the truth.
Fuck yeah.
This isn't going away. I fucking want some legal representation at this point. He goes and lawyers up, and then his lawyer is like, okay, you're fucking done, dude. Don't say another word. And so then they didn't do the polygraph test based on his attorney, his lawyer. Which any lawyer in the world would tell you do not take a polygraph test. There's not a single lawyer out there that would be like, yeah, definitely take that polygraph test.
Inadmissible. It's not going to do anything in court. It's not going to help you. It's not going to do
anything. It can only hurt you.
It can only hurt you because what they're going to end up doing is getting you to cop. And at the end of they may not even use the paper from the polygraph. It's the detective that starts talking to you after and saying, I don't know, man, I started you show indicators of deception on this question. What was this about? And then you start talking. Then you talk your way into some bullshit, and then you're done. And then
So that was the case with me. They were like, you had some indicators about this whole drug thing. I'm not buying it. You weren't around when you were 15 or 16. You didn't play Truth or Dare. He was just going on and on. I'm like, dude, listen, I've never fucking smoked. Did you ever smoke a cigarette and think it was pot? No, motherfucker. I've never smoked pot in my life. Never have done it. I've probably smoked 3 cigarettes my whole life. So, I would know if I've smoked a joint.
Yeah.
But my polygraph, the second time I took it, came back that the guy fucking still said he didn't believe me. But Okay. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I mean, I guess it's just between me and God that I've never smoked weed. Like, fucking, I wouldn't even know how to go buy it, dude. Like, I wouldn't even know like who to call. Like, I'd be more afraid that I was getting set up in some kind of a stinger operation, you know? Like, I don't know.
It's the devil's lettuce.
I just don't do it. Like, I don't care if you do it. That's fine. That's great. Like, go ahead. Like, you know, he was like, what's the closest you've ever been to pot? I was like, one time I spent the night at a dude's house, and after drinking heavily, I didn't want to drive, slept on the couch, went to use the bathroom, you know, was trying to find some like spray because I blew it up. And I opened up the drawer and there was weed in the drawer. And I was like, oh God, there's weed in here. I'm trying to be a cop one day. You know, I don't know. Like, that's probably the closest I've ever been to weed at that point. And there, but that was, again, that's like, I went into gross detail. I was like, yeah, I mean, I had the fucking liquor shits. I fucking blew up his thing. I was like, yeah, I need to find some spray. This is embarrassing. Like, but, so, you know, I don't know, from the interview standpoint, you know, I don't see really many indicators that he's lying. Any closing statements on this for you, Drew? For just this, I don't want to give away part 3.
Nope, I can't wait to get into part 3. I'm sorry if my audio or video quality was
it's great. It's great.
I didn't mean to intrude on your dead leg parade there, but I will, as a closing, we'll show you the ocean of Castaway Key if you like. But other than that, no, I have nothing. This guy, in my opinion, is not guilty. We'll see what happens. But I'm definitely looking forward to next week. Look at
Whoa, look at that view. Jeez. Wow, that is beautiful, man. I'm jealous. Listen, I hope we didn't bore you guys too much with this, but I really didn't want to just do a true crime breakdown of this case because I was afraid that if I don't give you evidence, like real evidence, then you will just be hearing my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to convince you of his innocence. I'm trying to show you the whole case. So I'm showing you the big key parts of this initial interview. And then next week, I'm going to show you all the women's interviews and just show you how they're different. And, if really objectively people need to look at this case, because this guy is going to jail for 260 something years. And you're going to see that the evidence gets even crazier that he committed, that he maybe didn't do this. We're going to show you some video surveillance that completely contradicts everything that the prosecutors are saying. We're going to show you, witness testimonies that are just insane. And I just don't see, but I understand when I first saw this case, I understand, I empathize, I really do with that many counts of rapes. He had to do something. Something. But then when you keep looking and you keep digging and you keep going, the more you find this, like, God, this guy was actually the opposite. And it really this case makes me so sick to my stomach, more than any case we've ever covered, aside from maybe Daniel Perkins' case. But it's hard for me to sleep at night knowing that this man is in jail. Anad Saeed, same way, right? Like, I thought there was a lot of evidence that showed Anad Saeed was in it, but there was a lot of evidence that showed he might be guilty too. There was a lot of weird things, but at the end of the day, I said at the end of the Anad Saeed stuff and the more research I did on my own and listening to that podcast, I determined that there's not enough to keep this guy in prison for life. Not enough. Like, that's crazy. Like, absolutely, there's no way. You got to let this guy go. You got to give this guy a retrial. That's not a fair trial. That's way too up in the air. And honestly, I think that there's only two chances. Either Anad Saeed is a complete sociopath and he's wonderful at being a sociopath and he can lie, or he didn't do it. And again, going back to all the other evidence, nobody else has accused him of being that way. So I think Anad Saeed is also innocent as well. But with this case, it just doesn't sit well with me at all. And I don't think it's fair. So anyway, if you think I'm wrong, if you've got different evidence, I've listened to every podcast about this. I've listened to two gay girls and two girls and a gay dude who have a podcast that's all about doing podcasts for people of color. These are white people doing a true crime podcast for people of color. I can't think of a more virtual signaling podcast or way of doing things, but they literally refer to him as the Roid Freak, the whole show. Like, they even tell you why they're going to call him a Roid Freak. They make fun of him being a jock. They make fun of lots of other jocks. So they come at it with extreme bias. And that's just not a fair way to podcast. And it's just very unfair. And I really don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be unfairly biased. but I do want to give you the other sides of the story, because I feel like I don't know. I don't know why I don't know why I've been called to do this episode. And I told you I've been wanting to do this episode since the Mike the Cop days. And it was just too much to it. Mike the Cop and I didn't want to get into it. Mike was like, I don't know. I mean, 13, I think that was our thing. He's like, 13 counts. Like, we need to really do our homework. If you think that this guy is innocent, like, you really need to dive into this, because I'm not getting on a podcast and presenting evidence, cherry picking evidence to make a guy look at, And so I've done that. I've done that for 2 years. I've just looked into this in every way, shape, or form. And I would never want to drag Deadleg, Andrea. I never want to drag Jonathan Bates, Drew Breezy into something on this podcast if I didn't really have the evidence to back myself up. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. But if you have some kind of evidence that I'm missing, if you have some kind of what about, message us on Instagram. Go to Instagram right now. Comment on this YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube. But for your audio listeners, who the majority of you are audio listeners, you're going to hit us up on the Instagrammies. You can hit us up on our website. I want to know. Also, call Comm Center. What's the Comm Center thing?
848-266-6911. 848-COM-911.
Yes. Call that number. Leave a voicemail on what you think on this case. Definitely. Let's get interactive on this, guys. Let's not fuck this one up. We're the Wolfpack. We are a podcast community. We do like to hear from our fans. But this is one of those ones I'm really asking you, please, if you've got some information that makes me look stupid, if you've got information that backs up what I'm saying, sure. But like, I don't want to get this wrong. I really don't. Especially for the new listeners. We're up 26% from last month, which means, that there's more and more people every month tuning in. So a lot of times people hear this shit for the first time. I really want them to understand that we are literally trying to do what we can to be objective. So even though that we are biased, I mean, I can't hide from the fact that I was a former cop. Can't hide that fact.
Take the cop out of this, though, Eric. I mean, I think it's any investigator's worst nightmare to put an innocent man in jail. That's worst the way nightmare. I see things. Worst nightmare. And when I saw this guy cry,
yeah,
that's real, dude. That's not a sociopath.
Yep,
that's real shit. And for anybody to say he's not an apologetic, why would he apologize for something that he didn't?
Right, I wouldn't be apologetic either. I didn't fucking do anything wrong.
You can't say he's a sociopath and he's still non-apologetic. And then they say, listen, I literally just read this. I'll post it on our social media webs, but the article says that he's still, it was Wikipedia. Still to this day, he remains unapologetic, even with DNA evidence. But the DNA evidence was touch DNA.
Right.
It was not vaginal DNA. So I can't, I've called detectives on this. I've called sex crimes detectives. I've let them look at the DNA. I've let them say this, and they've all said the same thing. Nah, this is touch DNA. It's touch DNA. And then they've explained it the same way every single time. So, like, this isn't new information. I'm not a journalist. I'm a C student at best. But if I am overwhelmed by the same evidence, why are you not overwhelmed by the same evidence? If everybody says touch DNA is the same, it's the same in this case, as that case, as every other case, and this is what touch DNA is, how can we still run with a narrative on Wikipedia that still to this day, even though there's DNA evidence, that doesn't paint the correct picture?
Agreed.
All right, guys. This has been Failure to Stop Podcast, brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. If you want to bet, mental health starts with a good night's sleep. I know, Drew, the hardest part about being on a cruise is that you don't have your ghost bed, and that is so sad. But I hope you brought your ghost bed pillow. Were you allowed to bring at least your ghost bed pillow?
No, things are pretty tight quarters in here.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's tough. I don't go anywhere without my ghost bed pillow. Right now, Ghost Bed's got 40% off of everything site-wide. Literally one of the only bed companies that fully backs the blue, fully backs the troops. No matter what's going on in the media, they have been relentless in their pursuit of law enforcement. If you're a law enforcement officer, if you made it this far in the podcast, please go and support ghostbed.com/Wolfpack in any way, shape, or form. Buy the sheets, buy the cooling sheets, buy the adjustable base, buy the mattress, buy the comforter. All of it is incredible stuff, but it lets our advertisers like Ghostbed know, who've been with us for over 2 years now. And have just been such an integral part. They literally pay our salaries, and so I cannot be thankful enough for a place like Ghostbed, because I couldn't spend the time, couldn't have Deadleg spend the time on a podcast like this if it wasn't for them, sponsoring us on every single episode, which is not cheap to do. There's a reason why we don't take other advertisements, side advertisements, and it's because we don't want to take away. The more advertisements we have, the more it takes away from GhostBed. GhostBed covers us all the way around the corners. They're like, we want to be number one. We want to be the only thing that you sell on that show. And of course, we've been partnering with Manscaped for a long time too. There's other that have been with us from the beginning before, with GhostBed at the same time. And so I always give them a boom. Blue Chew, Manscaped. And so, quarter 3 comes around, quarter 4 comes around near Christmas, and they want ads ran. We always run those ads. So, stamps.com, of course, dude. Stamps.com was one of our first ones when we switched over to Megaphone. So, and they're not paying for me to even shout out Megaphones. I mean, to shout out Stamps.com today. On the side note, I just do it because honestly, I am just that thankful for all these people. So, for all of our paid members on YouTube, Crockett Cassie, TJR, Lumber Chef, I see you up in here. Falconator, I see you in there. Tactical Carly. All of our Patreon members that pay to be on our Patreon for all that extra content. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That's what keeps the new cameras, keeps us all looking good. And it makes Drew on his cruise want to come over here and do a freaking podcast while he's on a gosh darn cruise. Like, that's all.
I can't stay away from you guys. Yep.
That's
I can't stay away from
you guys. So, next week, I promise, is going to be a lot more thrilling. Part 3 is the part you cannot miss. This is where we're going to catch people in real lies that are proven lies with evidence that backs it up. And then I want you to go and look at their interviews. There's this guy's interviews. And then I want to go into the trial, which is even fucking crazier. And it's going to blow your mind. And I think at the end of this, I really do think at the end of this, if you look at it objectively, this guy's got to get a retrial. At least he's got to have a retrial. So we'll see. But this is how poisonous mainstream media is. This is how poisonous it's become. This is how dangerous it's become. And for all of you guys who are dying in the smokes out there, be it lightning strike smokes or aliens, I don't know. I hope you guys are all safe and good. Thank you to all our first responders that are out there on the front lines, fucking saving the foundations of houses, all you cops out there. I mean, firefighters out there, second responders. Love everything you guys do. Until next time, Josh, you got anything?
Nope. Have a great weekend.
Guns up, kitty up, boys.